Calling this meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. We're here to discuss rezoning case ZON-22-10. Bonnie, can you please call roll?
Trustee Faust?
Here.
Trustee Knapp?
Here.
Trustee Grumbles?
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I already said the zoning thing. I'm going to go over some ground rules. This is my first time running a zoning hearing, so bear with me. When the board is ready for public comment, which will be after staff and the applicant and the board's comments and questions, then it's the public's comment turn. There'll be an opportunity for members of the public to speak. Residents wishing to speak need to state your name and address before you speak, and they should keep your comments limited to the merits of the application. Personal attacks on the applicant, township officials, or other residents will not be tolerated. Residents may lose their right to speak. I also ask if you were to step away from the podium and point to walk around the room, please take the microphone with you and speak into the microphone. As I've been listening to past zoning hearings on YouTube and Zoom and whatever all we use, I often can't hear public comment from residents. So use your inner performer voice and take the microphone with you, please. Okay, Mr. Duffy.
Good evening, trustees. We are here to discuss zoning case ZON-22-10. I will give a brief overview of the staff report, focusing on the changes since we have seen this application before in a previous form. So this is a request to rezone 4 parcels totaling 40.664 acres from a farm residential district, FR1, to single-family plan residential district, or SFPRD, use of a single-family cluster housing community with 117 cluster homes and 4 estate lots. You can see their updated development plan on the next page of the staff report, with the cluster homes in the southeast corner and the 4 estate lots in the northwest. Again, 4 lots, the estate lots will front Lewis Center Road with larger acreage, and the 117 cluster homes would be accessed independently off of Green Meadows Drive extension. The proposed density is 2.98 dwelling units per acre. That has dropped from their previous application. This still necessitates a divergence from the code. The max density in the SFPRD is at 2 units per acre. The applicant has also requested that a sales or rental office, which is normally a conditionally permitted use, be classified as a permitted use in this district, which is another divergence. In terms of development standards, the development has been divided into 2 sub-areas, A and B. So sub-area A is the 117 cluster homes with 2 entrances along Green Meadows Drive. And then sub-area B is the 4 estate homes fronting Lewis Center Road. In the development text that the applicant has provided, both sub-areas do have their own development text with different standards that would govern each sub-district. A 30-foot building setback has been added to property lines on the east, west, and south of the development that was not there previously. There are varying lot widths for the cluster homes. So 34 units would be at 32 feet lot width, 10 units would be at 36 feet, 40 units would be at 43 feet, and 33 units would be at 48 foot in lot width. It is requested as well for the 135-foot minimum lot depth, as there will not be any individually platted lots within the proposal. Again, this will be not platted, instead done as a condominium-style development. A proposed square footage for each unit shall be 1,200 square feet. There is another staff comment in there, which I suggest you disregard. They do indeed have setbacks for side and rear yard buildings. Within sub-area B, those setbacks are 80 feet to the rear for principal structures, 15 for accessory structures, and then 25 feet to the side. In terms of open space, total open space proposed 16.28 acres, or roughly 40%. That is roughly double the minimum requirement, which is 20%, which would be 8.133 acres. A new feature of this proposal, they are proposing tree preservation areas. Some of the amenities have changed. Previously, it was a swimming pool and clubhouse. The applicant is now proposing a walking path, playground, dog park, and a gazebo, as well as a centralized green space within sub-area A. Lighting and parking standards would both comply with the single-family plan residential district standards. In terms of signage, they are requesting a divergence to allow monument signs designed in accordance with the submitted graphic exhibit located on the site plan along Green Meadows Drive. That's most of the changes since the previous proposal. Additional staff comments. We are generally supportive of the divergences for lot standards and setbacks, as the condominium style development is not necessarily accounted for within the single family plan district requirements. In terms of technical agencies, Orange Township Fire Department has not formally approved the revised street and hydrant layout, but they have communicated to zoning staff that in general they find this acceptable and that they would provide written approval once final engineering has been completed on the project. The Orange Township Zoning Commission did recommend denial with a 3-2 vote of this application at their meeting on November 15th. Again, that was with a different layout and different number of units. Delaware County Regional Planning Commission did recommend conditional approval of this rezoning request, subject to 5 conditions, which have generally been met by the applicant. That concludes the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is happy to answer any questions that the board may have as well.
Do you want to go ahead and present? Should be going to the Zoom, like to the YouTube video.
How about now? There we go. All right, good evening. My name is Jake Dietrich with Onyx and East, and we prepared some slides to provide some additional color to what was provided in our submitted materials, and so we'll jump into that now. So as Robin mentioned, we previously presented in December with, if we go to the next slide, with the site plan that's shown on the screen here, and this plan showed a total of 162 total lots, which was a total density of about 3.99 units an acre. And that density, just to, again, try to provide some context as to where we started, if we go to the next slide, was derived, if we go to the next slide, derived from looking at the context and what densities had been approved for various communities surrounding the property. And while hard to view on the screen here, if you go from the Kerbler Farms, Slate Ridge subdivisions, which are 2 to 2.5 units per acre, to the multifamily associated with Slate Ridge, which was anywhere from 3.9 to 10 units per acre, to even the most recently approved Aurora Farms community on North Road at 3.25 units per acre. We felt that at the time that 4 units per acre was an appropriate density that kind of sits in the middle of all these various contextual uses. However, hearing the concerns of not only the trustees but the public, as Robin mentioned, we've made a pretty substantial change to the density, cutting our overall lot count by 25%. And whereas a lot of developers might try to peel off a lot or two, we feel like this is a very substantial change that demonstrates our willingness to and how much we listen to the community. So if we go to the next slide, this is just a graph that just kind of demonstrates where we were before. And if we go to the next slide, shows how dropping that to that 2.98 units per acre puts us, well below where multifamily is, and even below or meeting what other single-family PRDs have been approved of late. So if we go to the site, I guess the table kind of describes here in just more detail where we were before. So if we go to the site plan, which is the next slide, I want to call out a few things that I think is important to note from a plan perspective beyond the 117 new lot count. So Robin mentioned that we have some additional lot types. So whereas before we had a lot of narrow lots, we now have a lot wider lots and more diverse lots. And we've actually reduced the number of these lots that can accommodate 4-bedroom homes to reduce the total bedroom count within the community on a per home basis, even allowing for some single level homes to accommodate an older demographic. Our open space is up by almost a third, up to 40%. That, as Robin mentioned, that is double what is required of us. And we're excited about that because we're able to preserve about 6 acres of kind of preservation areas, as we're calling them. If we go to the next slide, Michelle, this is highlighted by the green, or not, excuse me, not the green, the gray area on this plan that shows kind of all those existing trees that are going to be preserved. We also have added additional maintained open space, and that's including the playground space, which we'll highlight on the next slide here. That's kind of central to the development that's on this axis of a new walking path that will connect our homes to our walking paths in the ravine area to the Green Meadows multi-use path so that the public can intersect into the property as well. If we go beyond that to our buffer yards, we've added a preserved buffer yard. Go to the next slide again, Michelle. We've added a buffer yard on the south property line where we're going to be preserving trees along that property line beyond just providing a setback. And then on sub-area on sub-area B on the next slide, it shows this really substantial setback from Lewis Center Road. And that is to preserve those existing trees that are along Lewis Center Road to really insulate the views of those homes, not only for them to Lewis Center Road, but from Lewis Center Road to those new homes, acting as if that there's maybe not even homes that are there. They would share that common drive, which, as we've committed to in the development text, we would minimize the impact as it relates to the driveway and utilities that would have to go through there to serve those homes. Another matter that has a quasi-zoning implication is the impact on the school system. And so we did some extensive research utilizing the help of Progress Residential, which manages thousands of homes across the Midwest, including more than 1,000 here in Columbus area. We asked them, on average, what number of, or how many children are in a home in one of your communities that you manage. And what they suggested was 0.8, and that directly aligns with what Olentangy uses as a barometer for number of children per school home. However, that's in a traditional single-family home, and as we've described to you, this is a single-family community that's going to be built for rent. In those purpose-built for rent communities, that number of children per household drops to 0.5. So we utilized that information and applied it to the context at hand. And so if we go to the next slide, we've kind of worked out a math problem here that compares our proposal and what we're expecting to be the number of children per home to that of a traditional single-family development that might even adhere to the 2 units per acre density restriction within the SFPRD. What we found was that in an SFPRD of traditional single-family development, applying that 0.78 children per household, 63 children would be produced as opposed to the 60 children that we're proposing. So while a divergence is requested for density, a divergence, I might add, that is not out of the realm of what has been approved previously, we're showing that the impact of the school district is potentially even less than that of a traditional single-family development. So a number of divergences are beyond density are requested, and we're going to click over and see if the technology is going to be supportive of this. To just walk you through a visualization of the community to better describe visually why a divergence, what these divergences are going to allow for. Maybe not. So we can just utilize that last slide Michelle, unless we're able to pull up the other presentation.
Actual photo. Yep, the last one. The one
Great.
before that.
Looks like we do not have the required version of the Flash player. Oh, it is. Okay. So this is just kind of a 3D pan of the streetscape within the community. And this is going to look similar to, communities in Evans Farms where you have homes that are addressing the streets. And we recognize that, a number of units per acre is greater than what's allowed. But what that is doing is allowing for this tight-knit community where people are walking on the sidewalk, sitting on their front porch, engaging with their neighbors in a way that we feel like is a positive addition to the community, not something that should be viewed as a negative just because it's a divergence. So all in all, we feel like we've gone to great extents to meet the requests of commissioner and public comment. We've got, again, a tremendous amount of open space protecting the mature trees that are on the property. And my hope, and to quote from a previous meeting, my hope is that we've gone from a square peg in a round hole to a round peg in a round hole. So we're here to answer any questions that you have or the public may have. Thank you.
Yeah, as one. Could you go back to the the comps when there were comps for different developments? Kind of.
Oh, yeah, the map.
Yeah, that one. Or yeah, the next.
You want to go to the graph?
Yeah, the graph.
So this is the examples.
Yeah. So some of those are the Village of Olentan. So the Orange Grand, that is an apartment complex, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the Cove?
The Cove is Evans Farm.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
So diagonal across.
Correct.
So if you see on of this, yeah.
Is-
Oh, this is the Cove here.
Okay, so you had a mixture of some single-family developments, correct, and some multifamily, right? Okay.
Correct.
Oh, because it's mixed use?
It's technically commercial zoning. It's a commercial zone, but it is entirely residential. It's the Cove.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that they weren't all single-family. I think maybe you'd mentioned single-family, but they are actually some multifamily. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what you said, but the 10 units per acre, we would never have a single-family, but that was that high. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize if I misspoke. That was not
Yeah,
my
maybe.
intent.
So the video that you just kind of showed us through, were those homes the 12-foot apart that you guys are proposing?
Yes.
Are the streets as wide as shown in that diagram?
Yes.
I mean, that is to scale.
I mean, to what you can get in a rendering, certainly. But yes, that was based off of a plan that is similar or the same street width that we're planning for, and what is standard with Delaware County.
And I think in the previous application, you guys were doing fences between every home. Do we know what the fence looked like? Or what type of fence? We know what the type of fence is along Green Meadows. I don't know that we know what type of fence it is from home to home.
Yeah, we would propose either a wood fence, a PVC fence, or an aluminum fence.
Okay. So not a privacy fence in the back. We're not talking 5 foot tall ones you can't see through.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that in the zoning text?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. So, and you said what would the height be on that?
It's not been defined. If that's something that the trustees would like us to come up with some sort of additional commitment on, we can do so. We'd plan to work with staff on
You
that.
said PVC or wood. Is that what?
PVC, wood, or aluminum. Yes.
Robin, what's the requirement to have the 4 outlots as a part of this? Is that just the property that was for sale?
Are you asking me or Robin?
Or anyone?
There's no requirement necessarily, but the applicant has proposed these parcels in conjunction together.
And Robin, do you know how many what the density Evans Farm is for the multifamily and single family?
6.
6. And do you know how many total units are being built?
It's too premature to know all their phases just yet.
Is it
Was it
over
6?
3,000 or?
6. Yeah.
For single family?
Not I don't think it.
I forget. It's been a while.
I think it's 2 for single family. I'd have to. I know it's 6 for the multifamily, which is the Cove area, and then the area fronting Lewis Center. So.
And do you know how many homes remain to be built? How much Evans Farm is built out yet?
There's probably another 10 years worth of homes. In the
Like
township.
not even halfway, or
No,
it's got to be like 25%.
probably 25, I would say.
I don't know. I don't know those numbers.
Robin, I'm asking about the plot layout because I'm looking to the future. If I wanted to split off the 9.2 acres to the at the top, so not cardinal here, but well, I guess it would be northwest. So, what's that process look like?
They would have to come in for another zoning change. Essentially, at staff suggestions, they mirrored a good portion of that development text for sub-area B to mirror the farm residential standards that we currently have.
Not, I guess what I'm getting
I
at
think I know.
is there's nothing to prohibit a change from that in the future.
Well, they would have to come back for a zoning
rezoning.
amendment.
Because they wouldn't comply with their open space
Correct. So they would have to be
or their density.
Yeah, the board would have to alter the zoning that way.
Okay.
And that is counted in the open space for the overall development? Those estate lots? Are
No,
they? No, they aren't,
no.
right? Okay.
So in essence, the open space is actually greater if you think about what actually is grass or preserved areas, because much of that is wetland and can't be developed.
And I apologize. The density is not included in that either. Then is that
No, the density is the open space is not.
okay? So if the estate lots were pulled out of this zoning, the density would increase.
Would go up to 3.9 units.
No,
Right.
No, absolutely not.
No?
Okay.
No, we are proposing a maximum of 121 lots. Right now, if we were to develop homes on sub-area B, they would have to adhere to this development standards within that sub-area plan. If we were to, for some reason, not build homes on that, we could build an additional 4 homes, or I guess an additional 3 homes if we preserve the existing home on the sub-area A plan, but in no instance are we proposing more than 121 homes.
I think the question, Ben, tell me if I'm saying this wrong. If you were to take these estate lots and go for another zoning change, say you wanted a multifamily development there, or what have you, that area, taking that area out of this development would impact the density proposed today.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
what is the density of
3.9.
sub area A is the,
You take the 4 units
Homes.
out and the 9.22 acres, it goes to 3.9 units an acre. But my concern is that, like, if you package those 4 outlots, there's nothing that prohibit packaging those and selling them. Another developer comes in and wants to make the most of their property.
But they still have to go through a zoning change.
Yes, they would have to go
I
through a
understand
zoning
that.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
And
nothing
it would be at your call to deny them or not. So we are not sitting here trying to create some loophole for somebody.
No. Not implying that you are,
Okay.
but implying that that's a possibility in the future.
Sure. And the reason why, so there was conversation at the last trustee meeting, and sorry to interject, I think in the line of questioning is that, whether these estate lots are appropriate or not, given what the majority of the development is. And we believe that they are appropriate if for no other reason than it provides a vehicle to a land use that almost preserves those lots. Rather than keep it as open space, it would be much easier for somebody, especially considering how we plan to sell them off as single family lots, to try to flip that and convert the use. It almost provides, again, like a land use restriction, but also provides for protection for the homeowners that are to the west and north along Lewis Center Road, is kind of a buffer from our use to their subdivisions or existing single family home, including the folks that live directly west of the property here.
Was a traffic study performed for this?
There was a traffic memo that was put together. Given that there's the extension that's happening, it wasn't exactly appropriate for us to do a traffic study because it wouldn't be accurate based on the road that doesn't exist today. So there was a memo that was approved by the county, but not an entire traffic.
Do you know how many trips per day per unit were proposed?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that was included in our zoning application, so we might be able to pull that back up.
And you guys are aware that the Green Meadows Drive extension project has been bumped back. They will be starting the project on the south end of Green Meadows Drive at the Home Road intersection. So we did real today about that. So that'll happen in this calendar year. Then the part that's up by your development won't be until next year.
Yes, we're
it
aware.
won't? Oh,
I think that changed it, but
We just got that.
Yes.
okay, so you're saying the part north of Home Road serving Slate Ridge is going to be
I
completed?
said it's the Kerbler part. It's the first 300 to 400 feet at the south end of Green Meadows. At the
Wait, so that the part south from that roundabout is not going to be done?
not the part by them. This part, if you're coming from Home Road and going north, that first 300 feet, 300 to 400 feet there will be done this calendar year.
So it would not connect the south?
Not yet.
Not
It
yet.
will.
Oh.
It will next June, by next June.
Okay, so yeah, and they said June of 2024. Okay. Okay, so within a little bit over a year, that should be completed. Okay.
Does that align with the construction of this, or would you need to have a temporary access?
A little bit to be determined. We may need to get some sort of temporary access, though, given that the property currently extends to that stub off of the roundabout. I think technically we have access to the property now.
And when would you start construction? When do you anticipate you'll be completed once you've started?
Estimated total construction duration would be about 2 years. And as far as when we start, it depends on how this meeting goes and subsequent meetings, but hopefully we would start construction before the end of the year.
Toward the end of this year?
End of this year, correct.
Okay, so I guess 6 months later, that road would maybe be done.
Yeah, when we would time it appropriately, work with the county, given when they project to open, to ensure that we would have access when we would plan to open.
And, so go ahead. What did you say the rental rates would be approximately?
I don't think I specifically said that, but I can add that to the record. We would project that rental rates would be between $2,500 and $3,500 a month.
And can you give us the breakdown of, you gave us percentage of each type of home? D14, D15, all that. But how many bedrooms are in each type?
Yeah, so we're prepared to provide a commitment letter adding to the record that states what we are willing to commit to in terms of bedroom counts, and that would be that no less than 15% of the lots would be for 2 bedrooms or less. And
15%.
no less than 15%, and no more than 35% would be for 4 bedrooms or more, with the caveat being that no home within the development would allow more than 4 bedrooms. Basically providing for some flexibility for
So
3
about
bedrooms
half
that
of
kind
the
of float
homes
in there.
About half will have.
That's correct.
So 35% at the most would have 4 bedrooms.
Correct. Which, if you go back to what we presented previously, it was about a 45-55 split, 3s and 4s. So we've drastically reduced the bedroom count.
That's good. And you said no basements, correct?
There may be a few basements along the north side of the property where there's the ravine, but that would be a small portion of the homes.
Where will the rental office be located?
The rental office would likely be located within one of the homes itself. It would just serve as a rental office or sales office for a time being.
Would people actually be working out of that office?
Yes.
Okay. Did we discuss like self-guided tours? How's that?
Yeah.
I know when we had
technology
our informal, we met for a couple hours, and I'm trying to remember.
As
But you-
technology changes, we anticipate that the world of leasing will move, or to a virtual model, but we're asking for the divergence, knowing that it's at least a possibility that we would have staff on site for at
If you
least a
need
portion.
it. Okay.
Do you know who your property manager will be?
We do not.
Will these always be for rent, or at some point would they be sold?
So the homes will be individually platted through a condominium structure to allow for them to be sold off individually if that were to be the right path forward. There's no specific plan for them to be sold off individually, though.
I didn't investigate the rest of your properties throughout the United States, and do you have any rentals anywhere? It seems like they're all for sale, pretty much, except for in Ohio.
Mostly for sale. We have rental communities being built both in Indiana and Florida right now.
Oh, okay, they're just not completed yet?
Correct.
The greenery that you're doing in Berlin Township, is that for rent?
It is for rent.
How many units, remind me, were in that one?
It actually happens to be 121 as well.
Oh, is it one? And how many acres was that one?
That was 36.9 acres.
You had provided initially a development plan with the homes laid out on that. You don't have that. You guys had a little more time to prepare the initials.
So there's an exhibit that describes setbacks that provides for a general layout of the homes, but we have not finalized the actual home designs yet, so we did not include that in the submissions.
I'm sorry, you said no more than 35% would be 2 bedrooms.
No more than 35% would have 4 bedrooms or more.
Okay, but it's a minimum of 15% would have 2 bedrooms, so somewhere between 15 and 30 and the 65.
The balance of that would be 3 bedrooms.
3
Yeah.
bedrooms.
Will all the homes have front porches?
Front porch or a stoop. Yes.
And where is sewer available currently to the property?
Sewer will be extended as a part of the Green Meadows extension.
So it will come from Green Meadows.
Correct.
Is that right? And I think we discussed this in the meeting we had. You said the general public can use the paths.
Yeah, I don't see us having a police officer sitting there telling people they can't use the path. It will be a private street network, so but we fully expect that folks to come into the property.
So the divergence that you're requesting for the building separation from 25 feet down to 12, is that doing that properly? Okay. Are you doing firewalls since they're going to be that close together?
So there's different wall assemblies that are required depending on how close you are. We have a maximum opening percentage if you get closer than 10 feet from wall to wall, and so or from structure. So this 12 feet would allow for eaves to extend beyond the face of the building. So other than that, it's a 1 hour wall.
And at one point you talked about the fencing being like the side yard would be the full. So it's not like you're going to have 6 feet on either side of your house. You're going to get full space from your house.
Yeah, each home would have approximately each rear load home, would have approximately a 12 by 50 foot side yard, and additionally with some of the lot changes that we've been proposing for even some of those rear loads, you would have some additional backyard space too.
So they have like a full
Bowling, yeah,
throw the ball to the
dog run and patio,
Right.
yeah,
or child run.
or child run, yes.
Robin, or Michelle, do you remember how many total units there were in Evans Farm for residential? I thought I remember like 3,500, but maybe that was including the Berlin.
That had to be including the Berlin side. We're closer to 1,000.
Is it 1,000 or
I thought it was 1,000.
1,000, including single family and multi-family?
And that's us and Berlin.
No, that's just us. But that might. I can pull that.
Did you? Yeah, do you remember, because it's 12, it says 1,200 acres.
No, Ms. Knapp, there was an amendment since you've been.
And then they remove the lots.
Huh?
Fire every.
When was that, last year?
This is the alleys. Yes. I can look it up.
Yeah, I still have a couple more things. I'm trying to figure out what, so, yeah, so 1,200 acres. I mean, I thought it was over 1,000, but I could be wrong. It's been a while. So I did check with the county engineer, and there's about 12 to 13,000 trips per day on Lewis Center Road currently, which is pretty high. And so if you use the average of 5 to 10 trips per day per single family or multifamily, it kind of ranges between maybe 3 for empty nesters, retired, 5 for like apartments and condos, and 10 for single family. And if there's another, I don't know how many residents we have there, but not including the commercial traffic, if we still have, 600 or 700 units left, plus the commercial traffic, I mean, you could practically double that traffic, unfortunately, on Lewis Center Road in the future, depending on how that develops. So, so when I first looked at this application, I saw it because I work part-time in Berlin as well. And I was like, that is never going to fly here. I would never approve that. It's too dense. I was, in my mind, pretty much against it. But I don't like to go into anything with my mind made up. I like to listen to everything and all the information. So when they first came to us, and they had, 162? I mean, that was just way too high. So we were allowed to, by law, have individual meetings and discuss things with the developer if we want. And we did that, and we met for, excuse me, a couple hours a few weeks ago. And almost everything I asked them to do, they've done, if not everything, I would say. Were proposing 40% 4 bedrooms, and I'd asked for 30%, so it's almost there. And let's see here. So they made a lot of changes to this. And the major one I asked for is, I've been against multifamily mostly for my entire time here. Certain kinds of multifamily, I think they bring traffic and maybe kids and things like that. And also they can look, they're maybe not be very attractive. Same thing with even single family houses. So if you look at some of our neighborhoods, they're right up against the main road. And they just don't look nice. There's just houses right in your face. So what I asked them to do with this was to maintain and commit to preserving the entire swath of land, which is pretty much almost, I would say, half the parcel along Lewis Center Road, which they've committed to doing. They committed to putting the estate lots, to setting them back beyond those trees that currently exist. So rather than, if they were to build someone were to build something is going to happen on this property in the future. It will happen. So it's a question of trying to figure out the best use for this property. So they committed, I was imagining it could be 81 single family homes. So we're talking a difference of about 37 homes lined up along Lewis Center Road, like every other row house subdivision that is built lately, anywhere in Delaware County. So what I liked is they committed to preserving that entire area. So as you're driving down the road, you would not see a bunch of houses right there on the road. So that was one aspect I liked about it, and they did commit to do that. They committed to one drive for the 3 estate lots, and they committed to setting that back far enough so all those trees on the north side of that development, the south side of the road, would be preserved. Then they committed to preserving all the trees along the ravine, even though I do think part of that is a preservation area, a stream that needs to be preserved. They were not going to build anything in that whole area. So I changed my mind on it a bit, even though I still haven't made up my mind. If this were a 150, 200, 300 unit proposal, I would never approve it. That's way too many. But this is a very small development with 117 units, which is pretty small. It's kind of a unique development. Um, uh, so at the most, the amount of traffic per day, it could increase it by maybe 500, maybe 1,000 trips per day. It's hard to tell. But in comparison to the 13,000 currently, that could go up to, at some point, 20,000 or more. I felt the trips per day were pretty inconsequential overall. That's my thinking right now. And especially with that south branch of the Green Meadows Drive getting ready to open at some point, that would help relieve some of that. So that I just wanted to explain my thinking as to why I'm sort of favoring it right now at this point is just it's a very small development. It's kind of a niche development, 117 units, and it's really unheard of for someone to reduce their density by, they basically took it down by about 25%. That's pretty rare. And when I actually looked online at their other developments, and even in the single family style detached, those are going for, 350, 400,000. The ones in Tampa, I don't know what the market is down there, but they have the attached units. Those are like somehow $700,000 or $800,000. So I'm not familiar with the Tampa. Maybe it's like New York or something, but it looks like they built a quality product overall. And I kind of thought it was like a little niche village area. I've been in zoning since 1998 here, or as a trustee, and I've seen a lot of developments, and I did not anticipate that was a big deal, is bringing too many kids to the area. We don't want to increase our taxes like every other development, and each child that it comes to this community ends up adding about $12,000 extra per year. That was a big concern of mine, and so I do believe when they say there would be 65 units, 60 kids, around that, 63 or 60 kids. I do believe that. In fact, I strongly believe it would be less. If it was a single family development using their formula, it would in fact bring probably 63 to maybe even 70 kids, depending. Some of these developments actually bring in more kids. In my experience, these smaller lots do not attract kids. They just don't. No one wants to live in a development with small yards where your kids are running around screaming and annoying your neighbors. As attractive as people might think these are, and I do think there would be some families, maybe some divorced parents, maybe people building a house, maybe grandparents with kids visiting. Most of these style neighborhoods do not attract children. So, and I got a copy of the directory information from the school district, and I spent like an entire day making my own map of every single child in the entire Olentangy district. And I compared some of these other units, the single family detached. And just for example, the Cheswick Village, that's not good one. Powell Crossing, that's in Powell, but they generate 0.09 kids per unit. Now that is attached, but that, it is rental. Now Orange Grand is one of the more dense ones. That's here in Orange Township. That was at about 0.25 kids per unit. That's one of the more dense ones. There's Village of Olentangy. That's behind the Kroger and Olentangy Crossings. That's kind of high. That was 0.91. Those are detached. 0.91 kids per home. But then you compare that to single family homes in the area. And for example, the North Farms development, which could easily be built here with a density of, I think it was
You'd be at 80 homes if it was 2 units an acre.
Yeah, so North Farms has 0.93 kids per home. So some developments have more than the average. So if they could, in theory, come in here, a developer, and ask for 81 homes that could generate, almost 1 kid per home with houses along Lewis Center Road. So I thought the idea of maintaining one of the few scenic vistas that remains in the area was important, because I am really tired of driving around and seeing all the trees cut down I mean, everywhere. All the trees are gone. There's more development. Every day it seems like everything's being cut down. So that was one thing in favor. If it was a regular single family, most likely a lot of those trees would be cut down. Let's see here. I did something else. And I was going to, and like I said, he committed to the trees and keeping the trees. And I just think, in my opinion, even though it would add traffic, I think versus what can and most likely will be built, this won't add as many cars. I think this will be more of an area for young people, mostly without kids. It would be kind of a unique, small development. The renderings are very nice. It looks like a little village. So I think when I look at a development, I always like to consider, if not this, then what? So in my mind, at this point, and we're going to hear from the public, I feel like this might be a better style of use than some that will most likely come down the pike, because eventually, to our chagrin, everything in Delaware County will develop sooner or later. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with everybody.
I want to correct myself for the Evans Farm numbers, as some of the residents all know that the animal Evans Farm is its own animal. It was designed to be our town center, so that's a harder community to compare with, in my opinion. But the single family lots is at 1,046 lots, and then the multifamily is about 1,300.
1,040 and then 1,300.
Correct.
Oh wow! So it's 2,300.
2,300 total.
Yeah,
For
so
all of Evans Farm.
wow.
All in Orange Township.
In Orange Township.
Yeah, I thought it was higher. So you add the traffic that, and I don't think I actually voted yes on that, but the amount of traffic that will generate in the commercial, in my opinion, the number of trips per day that this tiny development will generate will pale in comparison to 25,000, 30,000 trips per day that will eventually be on Lewis Center Road.
Who's going to build the 3 houses over here?
To be determined. We'll market the lots, and they'll be custom homes, most likely.
That's a catch for me.
What is?
That there's no plan for the 10 acres up here, right? So you sell those off, and people buy them and do what they want with them. They're an individual plot, right? So it gets us back into the same situation we're in. That's why from the onset of this.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean plan?
There's 4 lots, and then
But one's built on, right?
and then a 5th, right? And the
No.
5th is what we're really talking.
Yeah, there's 3. Wait, there's 3.
Correct.
And then there's one that's built.
The fact that
4.
there's houses on that right now, I don't think is. I mean that.
It seems like a nice house. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would want to wreck that down. It seems like
Okay,
I
I
don't
guess the 3
not
lots,
for 20 years. I don't know.
9, 10 acres or whatever of just ambiguity there.
I'm throwing a wild card out there. I don't know if it'll stick, but is there any way to have a conservation easement on those sites to ensure there's not more development than those single family homes per lot?
But wouldn't it, since that's what they're proposing, they can't build more than one home per lot, correct?
They're selling the lot.
They sell the lot, and they could go, and someone could go for a rezoning. They could try to put more lots there.
But isn't that that's part of this entire rezoning though? They would have to.
It would change they could change the zoning. Yes,
Yeah, but they would need to, we could deny it.
that's correct.
I mean, we'd deny it because we'd say
Right,
you
but
came in here and you
that's-
asked for this. And anyone can rezone anything. I mean, they could ask to put a gas station there.
I just thought a conservation easement would be a long-term solution.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we discussed a conservation or easement for the trees itself. But yeah, a way to, is there a way to?
That was my
We
question.
should have Julie stay. But I think this is part of this development. I think it would be very difficult for them to come in. I mean, anyone could buy it, but they would probably buy it conditional on the zoning. And if they couldn't get the zoning, which they couldn't. I mean, I have, 15 acres of green space behind my house that belongs to a different subdivision. They could request to rezone that, but no one, no one ever approved that because that was part of the green space for that plan.
Mhm.
I mean, and then, right? I mean, you couldn't build more than 3 houses there.
I was just thinking for, new different boards, different, who knows where it could be in 10
Yeah,
years.
how-
What is it? What is the
Yes.
zoning on those lots right now?
Farm residential.
Which is what per acre?
1.1 unit for 1.98 acres.
So 1 unit for every 1.98 acres.
For the 3 lots?
No, I guess what I'm asking.
And they did their sub area A. I'm sorry. Yeah. So they do have their own set of standards for 1 unit for whatever. I'm not sure.
We've mirrored the farm residential
Okay,
standards.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
For that sub area, we've mirrored the farm residential development standards.
Okay, I mean, in theory, they could also request the whole property be rezoned, including the,
Yes.
right? I mean, they could request anything, is split it in half or, yeah, have you dealt with conservation
Only one
here? at the
in
township?
my time here. Yep.
How was the language?
Yeah, I didn't put it together. It was through legal and regional planning had helped record that, but that was the Riverwood Farm off of Powell Road.
Oh, okay. And what's that called again? Conservation,
The conservation easement.
it is an easement. Okay. So, and what does that entail? It just means it has to be developed?
No build.
Speaking of the
No
strip
build
up
in
by
the
the high
trees.
school, that's what's
Okay.
coming to mind for me. Little strip up by the high school, 10 acres.
Now we've seen.
I think our proposed development text and the restrictions within it almost serves as a conservation easement.
Yeah.
That once this is, if zoning were to be approved, we can't deviate from that without coming to this body for approval. So I would propose that we just leave it as it's drafted because I think it's providing the same effect.
Because I discussed conservation easement, I think, when we met. I think I discussed it
And-
actually. Because
and
I
we
wanted to
kind
make
of-
sure all those trees were going to be preserved.
Yeah, so we applied that to what I think was the more important piece there of preserving those trees and setting back.
And we could do a
zones.
tree, I was going to ask about maybe a tree survey as well, to go out and, remember tree survey?
I cannot conduct a tree survey, but
Someone could do a tree survey. We've never done one, but we had an incident one time where some trees got chopped down and then we couldn't prove that they were there because we had no tree survey. I know we've done a tree survey in the past, but it's been a while. And then would you commit, I know in in the text it says you could remove some trees if they were necessary due to engineering and all that. I was going to ask if you would commit to, before any trees needed to be taken down that were in the conservation easement for whatever reason that weren't already indicated, if you would, if someone would come to the township and we could verify that before you did that work. Like if the county engineer says, hey, you're going to have to do this or do that, or you're like, well, we can't build we have to build an extra driveway, or, whatever could change in the future, if you would be willing to approach the zoning office and just have that, not that they would approve it, they would just go through the process with you, just to avoid any situation where we've had things where someone said, well, we were told we had to cut these down. Yeah, once trees are down, then that's it. I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, we're open to discussing it here. I wouldn't want to create something where there could potentially be a situation where we couldn't provide access to those homes, where there's loose enough language that provides rights that would, again, restrict our ability to develop those lots. By
Yeah, just maybe a notification before you do the work, just so we can verify that what is being said, especially after, if you relinquish the ownership of those properties and someone in the future doesn't. We've also had issues where someone didn't realize there was a conservation easement and cut everything down. That happened once. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of trees were taken down accidentally. And had they just told the township in advance, we would have notified them and said, you can't do that. Just like I said, trees are priceless. So
yeah, I'm just trying to fall back on kind of in place standards and processes, and so the pulling of permits provides that notification process, same in a way that I feel like is as clearly defined as anything that we could come up with right now.
think that's all I have. Ben, do you have anything?
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. As stated previously, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. What?
My name is Chris Shackroff. I live at 90 Highland Terrace, Worthington, Ohio. We own the 25 acres south of this property, and I was here in November 15th meeting. We discussed the applicant wanting to have a divergence from 35 feet off of our northern property line down to 30 feet, and I think Lisa might have said something about we wouldn't allow that at the time. But I'm here again tonight because they're still asking for it, to ask that it not be approved as it wasn't approved when Kerbler asked for it on our western property line. The zoning board did not approve it.
I'm sorry, could you, I'm confused. What, you said,
The northern property line of ours, so their southern property line, they want to be 30 feet off instead of 35.
And we are willing to commit to 35 tonight. We will.
but it's, I see.
I just want it
yeah.
on public record.
But is it actually even,
Did you ask for divergence from that?
There's broader divergences requested because of the condominium structure where we're not adhering
Yeah,
to the
there's
same
no
setbacks
setbacks.
because there's no lots. And so we can provide a commitment that we will provide a minimum building setback of 35 feet from our south property line.
so even, okay, so even here, it doesn't even, there's a 30-foot setback, but it even shows the units kind of into that 30-foot setback. Like, it
got
looks like it's only a 15-foot setback.
So there's a 15-foot buffer yard
Okay.
drawn and what's labeled as a 30-foot building setback. We will put it in the record in the commitment that we will make that a 35-foot building setback.
Okay, so,
As if there were rear yards to provide development standards to that respond to Mr. Chakroff's request.
Along the southern property line.
Correct, specifically.
and when you'll change it to say building setback, right?
Yeah,
Not
so-
just setback.
So we'll define that lots. We have lots numbered here. So lots 90. So lots 93 to 117, or the southern, whatever constitutes the southern property line. So again, that was lots 93 to 117, or whatever lot touches the southern property line. Such structures would be no less than 35 feet.
We just say 35-foot setback from the southern property line for building.
Yeah, that'll be across the entire setback, the entire length of the property, correct? Even,
Even with townhomes.
yeah, even,
Again, no building should encroach within 35 feet of the southern property line.
yeah.
There you go.
I have another comment. You know, from November 15th meeting, they've increased their green space by 40%,
About 30%.
30%. Why do they need any setback deviances? Why do they need any of those? I mean, all these, they've got all kinds of land. They shouldn't be right up against anybody's property line or any road.
Well, they're preserving, there's like a dedicated stream, that has to be preserved. I think it's I forget what
What
it's
about
called.
Green Meadows?
And then this.
And you talked about having some setback nice so you don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, why should that be any different than along our northern property line?
Yeah, what is the current setback, from, let's see, is it,
So we have to keep in mind, since our zoning code does not fit anything for condominium developments, they, no matter what setback, whatever it is, they'll have to seek a divergence because of the nature of how those homes are constructed, or how the homes are going to be laid out via condominium.
is this the Green Meadows Road as shown, as it is intended to be built on your
As we
plan?
understand it, yes.
And how far back would the buildings be set back from that?
So we have a 30-foot setback to the property line, or to the right of way, excuse me, along Green Meadows Road, as drawn.
So 30 feet back from the right of way, 30 feet back. Okay.
From the right of way, yes.
So this is,
So greater to the road, proposed road.
okay.
I think what I'm hearing Mr. Shackroff saying is, why are we not preserving trees, existing trees on the Green Meadow side?
Since they've got all that green space now, let's not push things up to the road if we don't have to.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't know what the code is, but I can sit down now. So thank you.
So
Yeah, I remember we discussed it. Some of those trees have to come down, but we weren't sure how many would come down from that road. how far back would you be able to push these back a little bit more?
So
Like 50 feet?
yeah, so let me add, so beyond the right-of-way that's proposed to be taken for the Green Meadows, the county will also be given a permanent construction or permanent utility easement and a construction easement to the west of that right-of-way. So it's not just that the county is going to cut down what's in the right-of-way, it's beyond that as well.
And as far as shifting anything more west, you do have a floodplain that's a barrier, correct?
Correct.
Where's that?
Floodplain and wetlands, correct.
Yeah. So all of this is a big flood.
Oh, yeah, but down at the south,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know this area down, but
South.
the retention pond has to be built there. Could it be moved a few feet? And, because I'm
Would-
just thinking if they could push it just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of factors at play. An additional one is the depth of the sewer that's in Green Meadows, and so the further to the west we get, the further we have a more problem we have with grade with sewer slope. So we feel like we've done our best to not only respond to the southern property line, but we've intentionally drawn these homes so that those homes address. Again, these are the fronts of those homes that are going to face Green Meadows Drive. So it's almost like you don't want those to be awkwardly far back from the road. They're at an appropriate distance from the road now.
So they're 30, you said 30 feet back from the road, but how big is that easement that has to be granted? Like what if that easement's 10 feet?
It would be about 30 feet in total easements that's there. So our 30-foot setback would be overlaid with those easements that the county would have.
That's on top of each other. It's not-
Correct.
But that easement is for utilities, right? Or is it to allow for future road widening? Or is it just utilities?
They're just easements. It's not right of way. And I would have to go back, and I haven't seen the most recent county plans to know exactly the width of those easements, but we preserve that space to accommodate what we've seen so far.
Okay, I'm going to change things up. Let's, just to keep us moving, we're just going to go resident to resident to resident to resident. We'll take notes. You guys will take notes, and then we'll be able to answer all the questions. Help us not have our entire evening while it's nice out in here. Okay, who's next?
Nick McCoy, 1201 Franklin Street. They're familiar with me. I've been here every time. It is a vast improvement on what was presented before. I will say that up front. And are residents allowed to have the individual meetings about proposed developments that the developers are allowed to have?
Yep.
Okay. That would be great if that was.
You mean you
could set
meet with
that
the
up.
developer?
Yeah, about this, yeah. Because
Oh,
my
yeah.
concerns are the same concerns this gentleman had when it comes to Green Meadows Drive. One, the other thing that's come up is where Green Meadows Drive is going to be a 3-lane rather than a 2-lane road. And I don't know if it's in any of that section near the Village of Lewis Center, whether they're going to have a middle turn lane in there, because that has been discussed by the county engineer's office and was presented in the February 2nd meeting that was directed towards the residents of the Village of Lewis Center. Where the same global talk that he brought up occurred with the amount of buffer either on the, both sides really, on the west side, east side of the Green Meadows Drive near the village, where they didn't leave a whole lot of space to do anything because they've got high pressure gas lines running down there. They've got fiber optics. We talked in that meeting about some kind of knoll down through there to give some separation to a proposed sidewalk that a lot of people were against anyways. The same thing would occur on the other side, where I brought my tablet this time so I could zoom in on the pictures. To where it appears to me that where they've shifted they've put the 30-foot setback from the existing right-of-way that's already there, and then they put the multi-use path within that existing, or with their setback. But then they have small, I'm assuming, sidewalks linking every property up through there to that. I think I speak for many residents, especially all of the residents on the property line on the west end of the Village of Lewis Center, all of those residents up through there, that a buffer, a a view buffer. It's not only the woods that you're trying to protect and the view you're trying to protect, Trustee Knapp from Lewis Center Road. Their residents have lived in that neighborhood in Lewis Center Village for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And for those 20, 30, 40, 50 years or longer, there have been woods all the way up through there. And understanding that there's road coming through and you've got a development that's going to somehow, some way that's going to be developed over there. It would be nice if we didn't see it, which is sort of the bottom line. Whether that occurs through a combination of things that happen on the east side of Green Meadows Drive towards the village and what occurs on the west side of Green Meadows Drive towards this proposed development, which I will give kudos to you about all the changes and accommodations you made. It would have been easy for you to walk away and not or not budge on a lot of this stuff.
But you're saying that there's a path proposed on Green Meadows
You've
Drive?
got a multi-use path on the west side of Green Meadows Drive that's going to come through, and now you've got a sidewalk proposed on the east side of Green Meadows Drive right down towards the village, which honestly I disagree with Mr. Brown about the ability of that sidewalk to extend anywhere.
Who's putting the sidewalk in?
The county. I would
On the
imagine it's
east?
drawn.
3 minutes.
Okay, I know, but that's why I would like to have this individual talk about
But yeah, we
About
can
that-
extend
about that
if we
distance
want
because this
everyone.
development goes the entire length of the
Yeah.
village.
But I don't know
We
who's.
can have that talk amongst about.
But
that
who's
whole thing.
proposing the side? Who's proposing the path?
Sidewalk is
But who's is there? And there's a path on the west side.
there's path, there's bike path on the left side, there's sidewalk currently on the east side. When you come, like when we did the pickleball court, they had to do the sidewalk.
Okay, and so what was your concern about that?
My
though?
concern about that is the sidewalk is being put in. It creates no opportunity for any buffer between the village and Green Meadows Drive that could have been done if the county had a meeting.
You mean
10
on
years
the
ago.
east side
Yeah,
of
on
it?
the east side of it. On the east side of it. And it doesn't, no matter what anyone will tell me, it doesn't run in continuity with anything else going south of Home Road along Green Meadows and even up North Road on the east side of that. Understanding that, yes,
I think that's a question to have with
Yes,
county
exactly.
engineers, so
But it
that's
just
not a question for this.
doesn't occur. But it has to do
With the buffer, yeah.
with this buffer that has to do with this development.
Okay, all right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Bud Abraham, 6205 Stormhaven Court. First, I want to thank the developer for kind of refreshing the design, kind of taking some of the citizens and the community's input to heart and kind of re-scrubbing it. I guess I'm really here not because of the development, just the big dog, and I talked about the last time I was here, is traffic. Green Meadows, it's not going to be done when this is done or even started. Lewis Center Road, still a 2-lane road, and whenever anyone's in there, they're only going to have one way to go. Go out or go east or west on Lewis Center Road. Been here 20 years, I'm tired of waiting. We talked about this the last time. I'm tired of waiting for any kind of development and any kind of infrastructure to be cleaned up. No offense to this developer. I'm not taking personal sides on this. It is just, we are putting a size 10 shoe or 10 foot in a size 5 shoe. We keep continuing to do this. Realize this is probably the best use for that property. This area needs some housing. It's going to need more. It's best use for the land, but again, we need to start looking at infrastructure hard. That's all I have. Thank you.
I do think, isn't the Green Meadows supposed to be done by June of 24? And did you say that you were committing to, you will still start development, but so your development will start at the end of this year. And so within,
The road will be done before.
yeah, it should be done. Now the county is controlling that, unfortunately. I know, but they have to rely on what the county is telling them. And like I said, 117 units is pretty small compared to everything else that's unfortunately going on. But yeah, it is very annoying. I mean, that is a two-lane road.
Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm John Oreskovich. I live in the Shores on Ketch Street. I don't know about you all, but I just got this thing. This thing came into my inbox on the 8th. And I opened it up, and it doesn't resemble anything of any of the prior things. The whole thing's turned. There's different roads. There's different retention basins. There's different variances. There's different divergences here. This is not materially the same application that was voted on December 7th. I don't understand how our zoning process permits someone to come in with a completely different redesign and simply work to try to convince 2 out of the 3 of you instead of going through due process. So I want to first go on the record saying 3 minutes is not enough time for me as a citizen of this township to question this developer.
We're able to.
It is not, I'm sorry, I'm speaking now.
I'm saying we can extend that.
I don't want to be
People
extended
that
because
want-
this is not the venue. It's not worth your time. You guys are running a township. There's a process to deal with zoning in this township, and it starts at the Board of Zoning. This application should have been rejected and gone all the way back to the beginning so that it can be publicly vetted. You know, I listened to last hour of my time to the 2 of you asking the majority of questions of things you had. An hour's worth of questions on this application. If you've got an hour, I've got an hour. I'm sure they got hours. They've got questions too. That belongs in a zoning process. It doesn't belong in a trustee meeting. If there's divergence requests to be made, there's a process for that too. It's called the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's where you file a request for a divergence if the zoning code does not fit you. I don't see due process happening for this. Again, I'm going on public record to say as a citizen, my rights are now being trampled on. My rights are being violated, that I'm not given the opportunity to vet this process out. Now, I thought I was wrong, so I decided to look at our own zoning code, and I know our zoning code's based upon the Ohio Revised Code, to see where it says in there the parameters for negotiations. You know, I used to negotiate labor contracts and entertainment contracts, and that was always fun. You come to a table and you'd start out, one party would enter what they think they should have, and another party would come back with what they think we should have, and it would go back and forth, and you negotiate this way and that way, and you maybe come to a... I didn't see that. I don't find rules of negotiations when it comes to zoning. I don't see where it affords a trustee or any person the right to negotiate the zoning code. That because you get a couple trees, you're going to give him a divergence. Or if you like the outside of the appearance of the building, that we're going to give away a setback for this gentleman's yard back here. I don't see negotiations in this zoning code, or nor do I see it in section 519 of the Ohio Revised Code. Now, if I'm missing something about the permissibility of our elected officials to negotiate away the parameters of the zoning code, I'd like you to tell me.
So this is a planned district. So a planned district is a flexible zoning that you can negotiate
This isn't a planned
Yes, it
district.
is.
It is.
How is it a planned
It's a
district?
single-family planned residential district. So
So the zoning code, if I understand you, Michelle, is
it's
totally...
essentially a free-for-all,
It's
yes.
a free-for-all.
Yes, so that's it. Most communities call it a planned unit development. Here we call it a planned residential district.
So how would this be any different if I owned, let's say, the equivalent of the sub-area A
Mhm.
and wanted to come in here and say,
It would be no different.
no different? I could
That's
Put a
correct.
hotel on it?
No, it's still up to the trustees to make the decision,
But
but
the trust, not the zoning, so we don't need a
no, the
zoning
zoning
board.
commission makes a recommendation.
But we don't need a zoning board then.
It's
No,
required that
part,
we have.
part of the
that.
ORC, the zoning commission.
We don't need a zoning board then.
They're
No,
simply
that is not the
advisory
truth.
in nature. though.
We
They're-
don't need a zoning board. And we
Yes.
don't need a board of zoning appeals
Yes,
if
you do need.
2 out of our 3 trustees can, whatever they decide, go.
The trustees make the
Do
ultimate.
we need a bone?
The trustees make the ultimate decision. It's our job to make the ultimate decision based on the information. The zoning commission, as an advisory, they go through it and they give us information. We're able by law to negotiate a better deal and a different
So
deal
for
and change it.
clarifications as a citizen, I have no rights or no venue to bring questions about any of this. That all that anybody really has to do is to meet with 2 out of the 3 of you over a cup of coffee and convince 2 out of the 3 of you what's better than what's right for 30,000 people, because you're not going to give me the opportunity in a meeting to review this.
But you're reviewing, you're right now, and you're
I
also
had 7
able-
days. This thing is different. It showed up in my inbox on the 8th, 7
But
days
it's
ago.
better than what is usually presented, which is where they come back and they've changed nothing. So I went through this very carefully. Our zoning department went through it and checked to make sure that it was not substantially different except for layout. So, yeah, and there are 2 ways you can, the only way to ask for a variance does go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or a divergence can be granted during zoning. Each process is different, but each one is completely legal.
I
So
see.
what they're doing is completely legal. And in my opinion, sometimes you have to give a little if you want a better.
In all clarifications,
development.
I wasn't saying anything illegal. I never implied there's an illegality.
Fundamentally, though, if you're right about if 2 trustees approve a zoning application, that's it.
It happens all the time. I mean, they've approved things that I voted
Okay,
no on.
so fundamentally, I am correct on that.
I
So
believe-
fundamentally, the whole
In that it
process of
takes-
vetting this
in that
doesn't
it
really
takes
matter.
a 2 to 3 vote to pass the zoning status.
2, that's correct.
It just
And
takes
you
two.
can either accept the zoning commission's recommendation of approval or go against their recommendation, vice versa. I mean, you don't have to, whatever, the zoning commission is a recommending body and the trustees make the final decision.
Okay, so just to clarify, if I'm understanding correctly, zoning is a negotiation,
Only for
not
plan,
a follow a zoning code.
only
It's a
for plan
negotiation.
districts, for plan districts.
For plan, only for plan districts.
Yes, so if they were to apply for, say, a farm residential district, it's a straight zoning, they have to comply with all the standards, otherwise they would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance.
Okay,
So, and we have some zoning experts here, and I'm happy to sit down with you
No,
offline and.
I think the point I'm trying to make is that the zoning, there's 2 points I'm trying to make. The first of which is this is not the same development that came through here, okay? And I did never understand, I've been here in this township since 1994. And I have never seen more things ramrodded through the process here than they have in the last few years. Things have been vetted, things have been questioned, things have gone through. All those questions that you asked are excellent. But I don't understand why those questions aren't happening at a level where there's conversation and they could be addressed.
Well,
The
we
fact that
asked
you
them to
even
bring a
have
new
those
plan in.
questions tells me that wasn't clearly communicated and hasn't clearly gone through the process.
Well, we asked them to bring a new plan in that addressed many of the issues that we had, and it does. And the reason the zoning commission voted no, our 3 to 2, is because they wished it was in the multifamily.
Okay.
That was the only reason. They think it should have been brought as a multifamily plan. And I had specifically asked it to be single family because I think detached multifamily is ridiculous. It's an oxymoron. You can't have detached multifamily. So if they come in as somehow detached multifamily, they would have less variances and or divergences. But yet, I don't consider this to be multifamily. So that's why they have a few extra ones.
My comments are not directed at the developer. My comments are directed at you in this process. I think it sucks that the people aren't getting a chance to vet these things out. You can't tell me there was a Board of Zoning process on this, because this is not the same application. So let's just recognize this plan has not gone through zoning.
It
Has
doesn't
not.
It doesn't have to. It's
Okay.
we're allowed to make changes.
So it's whatever the 2 of you guys or 3 of
We
you
spent a
want.
lot of hours on this.
I'm saying, well, congratulations. I spent a lot of hours too. I looked at it, in September it was 70 pages. In November, it was 75 pages, and this one's 72. Quickly, which pages got changed?
And
Which pages were taken out? It's 72 instead of 75, which is what was it?
wait,
What are the
our
3
zoning
pages
staff
that were
compares
removed?
it. Our zoning staff does compare, and they do let us know of any substantial changes. Yeah, and that's available, but I think we should probably get on with the public comment because we've allowed
Okay.
you a lot of extra time. But thank you for coming, I appreciate your passion.
Thank you, folks. I'm just trying to do something.
Hi, Richard Ball. I own the property to the west there, or to the east, I'm sorry, 1210 Low Center Road. And I own the property right along where they're going to build. I think the setback should be further back, more like about 100 feet. Looks like to me they got a lot of room in the back. I'm not for all those apartments. We got too much traffic now, too many kids, too many this and that, people cutting through properties, too many ride their bikes through the old village, cutting through the yards, you name it. And I think there should be a blind on the east side of the road. It's either mountain or trees. We don't want no sidewalk. We want people walking because they cut through the properties and stuff. They don't stay on the walks, and they like to walk their dogs and do their things. And there's 2 drives there that come out of that property. And, they'll be coming out of there day and night, mostly night and day. And it'll be bright, and they'll be shining over on the village, all the lights. And they'll be turning this way, that way, and they'll be flashing off the houses. So that's one reason why I think there should be a blind on the east side of the road of Green Meadows Drive. Other than that, the traffic's just getting horrendous, worse than it is now. So, I think we could cut down a lot of that cars by eliminating a lot of these apartments. I don't think Orange Township's designed to build apartment after apartment like they did across the road there on Little Center Road. And, people's come and gone, and they should, and the county said they was going to extend the bike path was going to be on the west side of the road of Green Meadows, and then you go around and tie into like that Evans Farms rental place over there. But I don't know how that's going to happen, how they're going to cross that roundabout there. But I don't know. I just don't want to cut through my property. They've already taken.
Where do you live?
He's right across the street, basically.
From-
You're
I'm sorry.
closer to where you live is closer to Lewis Center, right? Like your property is closer to Lewis Center.
My property is right across the street from there.
Yeah.
I'm on the east side of the
Are you on
corner,
the
the
roundabout?
roundabout.
White House.
Yes, the white, the brown, and the lots on this side that face Green Meadows Drive.
And I've got some answers from you on the mount. So
And
when we-
Mr. Nick there, he's right
He's right
behind
behind
me,
you, yeah.
and the Beers property and all those others. Is there going to be parking on Green Meadows Drive? I hope not.
I don't. So
Yeah,
I can't
See.
imagine.
There's no signs on Little Center Road that says no parking.
do people park on Lewis Center?
Sure, once in a while, yeah.
Oh, really?
Delivery trucks all the time pull
Yeah.
up there and park.
There won't be
And,
any designated parking or legal parking.
yeah, they park there every once in a while. And I know they park on Green Meadows Drive right now because it's a dead end street. Nobody's using it. So I just wondered if there's going to be parking allowed.
I doubt it.
On that street.
Like, it would be too busy to allow for that. It's gonna be a busy road.
Oh yeah, it's already busy. Getting worse. Okay, well, thanks.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Robin, is there a headlight buffer? Is there a headlight buffer along this,
Oh, what?
a headlight buffer along this property? Yeah, sometimes they're
Going
like that.
going which direction?
Oh, front,
From Green Meadows?
yeah.
From Green Meadows?
Yeah, towards the village.
There will be a decorative fence there, yes.
A fence?
Yes.
Okay, does
Yeah,
that,
and some shrubing, right?
yeah, so is that enough? Does that
Not when
meet
I'm
the,
pulling out,
Oh,
But
just
when
the
you-
entrance, yeah.
right? Like if I was,
Well,
yeah, as I'm leaving the development, going whatever direction,
yeah, I guess.
headed east.
No.
yeah, I don't know how you
Yeah, I guess that would be. an easy
It would have to be off their property, which they have no control of.
Any other public comment?
Doug Wenzel, 620 Lewis Center Road, just to the west. In response to him, the buffer zone behind your property, to the west of there, Kerbler's a revision to his plan. Memory tells that there were requests for Kerbler's side to put screening there, and I believe it was agreed upon. I don't know how far your property goes over, but to me, you would think that screening would be essential for him as well. And so the south and west side of the property, it would make sense for screening because memory tells it it was required on Kerbler's. Anyway, it is, yes.
Thank you.
Going back in. Something came up that really needs to be discussed. And I don't think it needs to be discussed with anybody here. It needs to be discussed with Delaware County. Because I've been in meetings with Delaware County about the road, Green Meadows Drive. And it is going to be a 3-lane down to 2. And where that happens is going to be really important to what the decision is made tonight on that property. If it happens within their boundary lines, you're in trouble.
Because you think it'll be too close to the.
I don't know. I'm not trying to make a problem, but I think there's a lack of communications that needs to be taken care of with the county on that 3rd lane. For their benefit, for your benefit, for everybody's benefit. And if we don't do it, we could be in trouble. You guys could be in trouble.
Oh, can I ask you one question? Do you intend to develop your property in the future?
$1 million question.
We've been all
Probably
waiting.
more than $1 million.
Yeah, several million.
Well, I will tell you something. When I make that decision, I will be talking to them all first before I come here. We've always done that in our family. We've developed other properties, and that's how we work.
Is it single family in the land use plan, or do you know?
I doubt it. I really think I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. But I think we need to stop with the taxing the schools. I think I need to go commercial in there. And I wish Kerbler's was more commercial. So between me, you, and this mic.
But the trees are so beautiful. I would think you could have a nice single family development in there.
And there's some nice big bucks in there that my son picks off once in a while. So
Lucky him.
yeah. So anyway, I really think you need to talk to the county about that 3rd lane. I don't know where it's going to be. I have no idea.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Susie Ross. I live at 6792 South Old State. I would just like to say that I agree completely with the gentleman in the blue shirt that was up here talking earlier. I don't know the process well enough, but I believe this should have gone back to the Board of Zoning so that they could review it. I think that's the proper place for it. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. You're meeting the letter of the law, but you're probably not meeting the intent of it. And that is uncomfortable for me. I think that was my objection when I saw this at the zoning meeting, was that this, there was the argument whether it's fit into single family or whether it fit into multifamily. And the truth is it doesn't fit into either one. And that's why I'm the person who said trying to cram a square peg into a round hole, and I still think that's what you're trying to do. I don't want you to vote for this. I think it is a great improvement. I think the first plan that I saw at the most dense was frightening. I've seen a lot happen in this township since I've been here, and I stand with my whole family. 3 of the 4 of us live here, and I will say that this is not in the best interest of our township. To believe that a couple will live in a a rental that rents for $3,500 a month without having any children in it, I think is unrealistic. To say that this really isn't, that it's so much less impact than a traditional single family home with green space. What a lovely place this would be. If it had 80 houses that were spread all out and had green in between, I'd gladly take the children that went along with that. To think that this has that much less traffic or that many less children is kind of trying to kid yourself a little bit. It has too many divergences. I think the building separation is shameful. 12 feet in between buildings is just not, this is not our township. This isn't what we look like. This isn't the window that we want people to have. This township over the last 20 plus years has been the most desirable township to live in central Ohio. In Ohio, had the top growth in the nation many years. Do we really need to settle for something that's less than our best? And they've put a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of trouble, and obviously negotiated with you, which I object to. But that still doesn't mean that it's the right fit for our township. And I really don't believe it is. And I think that the traffic is cumulative. Okay, 1,200 houses right up the street. We don't even know whether that's going to work or not. They've been floundering for years. Okay, we don't have those houses yet. We're going to have all that traffic. When they connect Green Meadows, do you think that's just going to take traffic away from Lewis Center? It's going to bring more traffic to Lewis Center. You're going to have those apartments or whatever they are, condos that are right there along the railroad tracks, and then more houses to the north on the Berlin side of this. That's all going to come through there as well. And then you're just going to pile on more. I think it's time to take a pause and look for the right development for this piece of land. And I don't think this is it.
So let me ask you, so you would rather have like a North Farms development with houses right up against the road?
That is what I said.
That's what will be built here.
I believe that you can have both. It's up to the zoning board and the trustees to find developments that have a combination of both. For years, I've watched regional planning tell all of the subdivisions in Orange Township, well, just put your green space out at the road, put your green space out at the road, put your green space out at the road. And what do? They widen the road, and then the green space is gone. That's going to happen right next door to me. They crammed all of the green space up against South Old State for the estates of Glen Oaks. Well, it's going to be widened, and I'm going to lose all my front yard, and so are they. So then there will be no green space. And you know what? Lewis Center is going to be widened. You tell me they're not going to take out some of those trees? Yes, they are. And I guarantee you it's going to be widened a lot wider than South Old State will.
But if they come in with a plan that meets our code, and say it's 2 units per acre for single family, they come in and the houses are all spread out and there's no divergences requested. It's like North Farms, just row houses. We pretty much have to approve it because it meets the land use plan and it meets the zoning. So that would be a plan that would come in.
But this does not.
But we would have to come in and we would have to approve that plan as is. It would be very difficult not to, because if we didn't, it's a taking of the property. So
do you mean 2 of you wouldn't sit down and negotiate with them to try to keep the green space that's kept in this one?
Well, we wouldn't need to negotiate anything.
You negotiated with this organization.
But they don't need to negotiate with us because they have a silver barrel, because if it meets the requirements, we pretty much have to approve it. So there's no reason for them to even negotiate. If developers come in, meets the plan, they might give a couple little bushes or take a density out. They have a silver barrel because we practically have to approve it. But this one, we have negotiation.
I realize that, but I believe in the zoning process, where if it went to the Board of Zoning, that they would recommend changes and that there would be give and take.
But they don't need to even engage. There's no reason for they're accommodating us because we're going to turn them down.
Believe me, nobody comes to Orange Township meeting everything.
It's actually happened.
Not very often, because I'll tell you, I've sat through too many of these things and spoken and said, please don't approve this because it's over our density. It's over our density. I guarantee you, if you look at those different subdivisions that are up on there, there's hardly a single one of them that met township density. It came in and they were given higher density than what our code allows.
And the zoning commission recommended those all for approval.
And I disagree.
But they
And you know what?
recommended
You
them.
could have turned them down at this level.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not saying
What
you
we've
personally.
approved. Yeah,
I'm
it's been
saying,
a couple years.
I'm just saying this. I don't want to argue with you.
And I don't want
won't-
this to be, I would prefer nothing there, but I really like, when
I
you
know
drive down
that-
Lewis Center Road,
I
it looks
know that
pretty.
something's going to be there because I've lived here
Yeah.
a long time. And I don't know whether I've lived here longer than everybody that's in this room, but I'd say I'm really close. I know Mr. Hall's been here a lot longer than
I'm just
I have.
trying to find the best,
But
this
I
is a
know you
beautiful
are,
road.
but I
It's so
don't
pretty.
think this is it. That's my
All right,
comment.
thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, so we'll close public comment and we will let the applicant respond.
I think we've had a lot of great discussion tonight, and there's a lot of obviously large scale concerns with residents that I feel like are substantiated, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we've provided a plan that we feel like is in the best interest of the township, best interest of the property. And if the property is going to be developed, we want to be stewards of the land by preserving a lot of open space, by providing, again, just a thoughtful plan. We feel like we're doing right by this. And while we certainly have the same concerns about Lewis Center Road and things like that, we're a drop in the bucket in the large scale traffic volumes and things like that. So I'm not here to unsubstantiate or discredit anything that's been said this evening, but we feel like we've got a great plan before you and would ask for your support.
Is there any way to preserve more of the trees on the west side of Green Meadows Drive? The existing trees?
So again, the county's going to take out a whole crap ton of them. And if you look at our plan, we've got a crap ton that we're adding back in that we're going to provide a buffer between our homes and the multi-use path. Sorry, my lack of technical terms with crap ton.
Define that, please.
Yeah, a lot, and more than what we were seeing throughout the rest of the development. So we're trying to take into account for that, and by planting more. So rather than commit that we're going to save some crap scrub that's there right now, we're going to plant new trees that are going to grow to be better species, anyways.
And we still don't know. It's a 3-lane road. It shows 2 here.
Don't know.
Do we have any idea? Because I would like to know how much it is planned now to be 3 lanes somewhere. Like it is already planned. It's not like they're going to make it 2 and then extend it to 3 on the west side, I'm assuming.
I haven't seen the design myself. I know there was an open house 2 weeks ago, and
That was just to discuss whether
The
the
access.
Lewis Center Village wanted access into their curb cuts
Yeah.
into their property. And I can't speak on the mound that was brought up a couple times. We talked to Doug Riedel today, and he said Robert Riley is okay with the mound. So I don't know how high. I don't know if there's anything on top of it, but the mound
Which mound? On the east?
on the Lewis Center Village side
Oh.
so we're in the process.
Ooh,
I don't know if
nice.
there will be a sidewalk on the west side of the mound. I don't know any of that.
Check into why they're requiring the sidewalk, or if it's necessary? I guess it's just a done deal.
I don't know. We can ask that. Get more details as we, that they were open to the mound. So that's what I
Yeah,
know.
maybe. Do you think there's enough room to do a mound there?
I don't know, but I mean, if they said they're okay with it, then
Yeah,
they're
like
the
if-
engineers, not us.
That'd be nice. 3 to 5 foot tall mound if there's enough rise would be nice with some trees.
I don't know what
Oh, that's
they haven't
great.
committed, but my understanding is the mound is a possibility.
Okay, that's good because that, I wish we had the details here. Would it be possible for you to give a 50-foot setback from the road, trying to think, there's an easement. Yeah, so it's 30, did you say it's 30 feet right now from the easement or from the road?
It's 30 feet from the right of way, which
Is
is
the right of way that black dotted line there?
Yes.
The heavy line? Okay.
Or 30 feet back, okay.
And so
So you're roughly-
the bike path is within
your property.
Correct.
And who's building the bike path?
They are going
You are? Okay. Would you be willing to?
We're connecting the bike
The
path.
50
For fee in lieu.
So we're paying for it. The county will do it.
You're paying for, okay. Would you be willing to set it back 50 feet instead?
I don't think we can commit to that because we've got wetlands to deal with on the west side, and if we can press that green space anymore, I'm just not comfortable that that's going to be
So I have a
large enough.
question about the buildings, sides, between each other. We decreased the number of units a lot, obviously, by 25%, but then still 12 feet apart.
Mhm.
Where did that extra space go? Because you had some green space in the original plan. I just wonder why they're not 15 feet apart or, that kind of stuff.
So introducing some of those single level plans, lots or homes got wider. And we've also reduced the extensive development. So if you look on the plan that's on your screen in the southwest corner, that the extensive development goes notably farther to the west than the previous one did.
Did you space it out? Have more space between the buildings?
Possibly.
Like
I don't.
we talked about moving the whole thing away from Green Meadows. If it used to go, closer to your western property edge. Obviously, you got a pond there, so you have to.
Oh,
And
yeah.
honestly,
I see what you're
the
saying.
incremental potential here is my concern.
Incremental potential for.
Changing.
So you're concerned if we approve 121 lots right now, something didn't work out.
Modifications of the
What you mean? But they would have to request it. But they have to request it for, yeah, I see what you mean. So is it possible so then it would be possible to move it.
Let me put it like this. We build a neighborhood. The property is developed. It's accounted for, meaning green space, utility parks. When you get to the BZA, it's back there. You get to the BZA and this, and you could be adding streets and extending the property right back to where it was. The outlots at the top, there's zero.
But they would never approve that because you have to, it's a use variance or a area variance and you have to show really like serious
I think
difficulties.
they would approve the 9 acres at the top.
That would be a substantial change. On what basis? They would have to have some kind of hardship. No, if it was a use variance, they would have to rezone the property. There's no way. I don't know what kind of variance that even would be. Yeah, it had to be rezoning. Yeah, not a variance, but not a BZA. But they could. But if we put a conservation easement on this.
Question? Oh,
Go ahead. Question. You can ask your question.
Around 1425 Church Street, downtown Lewis Center. When they have these discussions, why is it we can never get a commitment from the county what the road's going to be, how wide, when they're going to do it? They've talked home road to death. They've talked roundabouts to death. You guys are trying to decide how many feet back, all this kind of stuff. It's like the county doesn't do anything.
It might be, sometimes they have it on their website. They probably have a plan, it's just they don't always just share it with us. Like right now, if we had thought to ask for that, we might have been able to get it, but they do have a lot of plans on their website, or if you email them, they're actually really good at giving us they have to have a plan somewhere. I mean, it's probably, it could be on their website.
It'll be on the paper soon, so.
They have to have a plan, but how in the world they can't share it with anybody? I mean, it affects us greatly.
It's probably on their website. It's just that
Well,
they
same thing
don't
with
know
Lewis
you
Center
want
Road.
it.
We had this discussion at the last meeting. They're
Yeah.
wearing that thing out and they're waiting for Home Road, they're waiting for Kerbler. You know, they've been talking about that thing for 15 years.
But that had a delay with the overpass or something. But I'm pretty confident if you go to their website, we could probably, they have all their stuff on there. It's just they don't know who, right? They really do. It's just that we wouldn't have even dreamed that we would need that information. So I don't always agree with everything the county engineer does, but I have to say they have very organized projects on there. If you email them, they will get back with you. They're very helpful. I think they do too many projects, but the projects they do are usually pretty. Yeah, they have if you go on their website, there's a bunch of home road extension, orange road
They had
improvements.
a 10-point plan in the paper. They're honking about Bale Canyon Road. I don't know how, you know, that's going to be 3 different projects for a 2-lane road. And Home Road is the main east-west connector in the southern end of the county. And whatever you guys said, 20,000 people a day. I mean, we see it every day. And we've asked for a sign to say, do not block this intersection. A simple sign, and they can't do that. People sit there, and when we had this discussion, they have a 2-mile train. It's backed up to Old State Road, and it's backed up to past the high school. And we just asked for a sign. In case people read a sign, we can get out. And this is going to add some to it. It's just an overall thing. This development may or may not be good for the community, but the one on the northeast corner of North Road and Lewis Center, they've built every square inch of that thing. It looks terrible. It's done. We're almost done. It looks terrible. You talk the northeast corner of Lewis Center and North Road. The Evans Farms Cove or
The Cove, yeah.
some old buzzy thing, right? And that got jammed through somehow. And it looks terrible, but it's almost done. Talking about looking from the road. That's your project right there. So that's my comment and question.
It's part of the Dorsey
Yeah.
Can-
Coincidental, man.
Oh, it's not. What part
Try
of
to find the
it?
drawings.
It says current projects, but I don't.
Thanks, last year.
My guess is it has to reach a certain phase of the.
Oh,
Or
to be
it
on
has
there,
more,
but you can email them and they have sent all kinds of stuff. They'll send the preliminary plans after you email them. Just none of us thought that we would need that. Paperwork overload.
I do. Trustee.
The county engineer is an elected official, though. If he does a bad job, you vote him out.
If I may, can I respond to a concern about just somebody trying to figure out a way to cram something into the open space? If that's a concern, we're not trying to create a loophole here. So if we need to create some sort of conservation easement over what I would say is more particularly like the west side of the development where you're saying it's not fully built out, it's part of our open space. We're not trying to deviate from that in our plan. So we're fine creating a conservation easement, which would be a recorded document different than zoning text. I would propose that we work with staff to define that because it'd be too hard to create that legal description and maintenance requirements in this meeting now. But if we want to if we need to craft a commitment that generally describes that, that's fine.
So, is that's something that could probably work out? So it's a simple conservation easement. I mean, so I have like the conditions, and like I said, I'd rather have it just an open parcel. I'd rather have nothing else developed ever again. I mean, I live next to a nice woods of like 15 acres for 20 years now, and they were going to put 2 condos and 4 condos per acre, and instead the guy ended up putting like 2 houses in, which I really hate, and it's really ugly. And I don't have my woods anymore. Like, there's a house in my backyard, which is really painful. But I have to remember every day that I'm very grateful that they didn't put 20 condos in there. As much as I hate that they tore all the trees down, and it was 2 years of a lot of noise and land clearing and devastating. But again, I had to say, well, at least they didn't build 22 condos back there, which is what they wanted to do. So sometimes I feel you have to take the best option when the other option here is to develop this looking like North Farms, for example, which I don't find, I love the people that live there, but to me, it's just a bunch of houses on the, side of the road. So I just feel like visually this looks better. So I don't know. So I have a bunch of stipulations here, but,
Yes, I got a legal opinion on whether or not the trustees can take back an application to the zoning commission. The trustees cannot take a decision or take this back to the zoning commission unless the applicant chooses to withdraw their application and start over the process, or the trustees voted denial based on the belief that this was substantially different and that it would go back to the zoning commission. Either way, the applicant has to start over the process. Once the zoning commission makes a recommendation, it cannot legally go back to them
at any point.
at any point.
Yeah, it always has to be, it always has to be rezoning. And then, I mean, we could just deny it and have them start over. But again, the only issue they had was that they thought it should be in the multifamily instead of single family. Now, if they had said something like, something completely different, I might have a different opinion, but to me, that issue of the correct zoning for this small piece of property that won't set a precedent, to me, that was kind of a moot point. So,
I just wanted to explain the options.
yeah, there's no option for that here. Well, I have a bunch of like conditions, like fence and against Mr. Chakrov's property, and you're going to do a tree survey and a conservation easement and a bunch of stuff. But are you? I don't want to go through all of this and make a bunch of stuff if you're not in favor of this. Yeah, yeah.
And I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I agree with everybody here that I said you guys went from a number that was unacceptable to you cut it a lot. That's huge. I like that you kept the estate lots. I like that you protected the stream and the ponds and amenities within the development, but it's still high. And I know that we as in Orange Township, have approved a number of developments throughout the community in the last 5 to 10 years that are higher. This year's is not the highest. But we approve each group is done by individual boards, and each individual on its own merits. So I appreciate all the feedback that you gave us on that. So that's just kind of it.
But we've also have a substantial amount of open space too beyond what is minimum. We've doubled the minimum requirement there. So I understand you have to weigh the balances here, but man, I feel like we've really done it as best as we can to try to respond to this in every way we can.
I know, and I appreciate that. And the building separation too, it's 25 feet for protection for the residents that live there. Should something unforeseen happen, there's a fire, 1 hour firewall is not very long to get through.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, it's building code. We're adhering to the building code.
Are you adhering to the fire code?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
yes, one and the same. Yes.
So for me, I was at the last hearing, if you recall, I voted no. Okay. And what I had said was that if they were going to change the application, that my preference was that it would go back through the zoning commission if we were going to substantially change it. That's a subjective definition. So, for me, as I said then, nothing would change tonight, in my opinion. And that why also once an application starts, I typically won't meet with developers either way. After it's approved or denied or what have you, the conversation for me, I'm fine with that. So it's consistent with kind of what some of the folks in the audience had said. And I was actually the one that said square peg and round hole, I think, right? So I'm glad other people said that. It makes me feel less special.
But any of us are free legally to meet with developers.
I agree with that. Yep.
I mean,
it's a personal preference for me, and it's just it's because we've all had our own experiences. I mean, you've been on the board a lot longer than I have, or anyone else, right? So, you know, we're all going to have our own unique things. For me, that's my unique thing.
Well, to me, they came in and they spent a lot of time and money. I thought it was worth it to at least give them a chance to give us their best product.
And I
which
met with
think
them
they
a
have.
number of times as well. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it
that's-
took a lot of hours that, you know, we don't always even have,
Yeah.
but it was worth it to me to try to get. So I just love the way that looks. It's very pretty to me. And
I do like,
if it looks
the
like North
northern
Farm,
part better.
if it looks like North Farms, it's just, no offense, but that's the way, that's all developers do. They come and it's row houses after row houses. I drove by down here the other day and it's just so pretty and
Yeah.
peaceful, and you know, it will develop and it will be.
Yeah, it will. And I think
Hideous.
the Northwest will develop at some point too. I can't imagine that's going to stay single family. But it's not for me to say at this
Yeah.
board or this time. It's not what I'm being asked to vote on.
So in front of the board today, there's 3 resolutions to consider. The wording is a little different since the zoning commission recommendation was denial. So if you were to move forward with approval, you would actually deny the recommendation of denial of the zoning commission. So those are the first 2 resolutions in front of you. And the second one is with modifications, as it seems like if we go that route, we'll have some modifications to work on. And then the last resolution in front of you is to approve the recommendation of denial, meaning that you're accepting the denial of the zoning commission's recommendation.
But at that point, if they wanted to revisit,
Right.
They
Submit
could,
again,
right?
Go through the
Oh,
process
yeah, I mean,
again
anybody
and
can
space it out.
over and over again.
we had that happen with a developer in my first year.
3 times.
Yeah, that's right.
What would changes would need to be made for that? I mean, just spacing it out more.
Space it out and cut it.
I'm not, it's not,
Just
Go through
saying.
the process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
but, well, go through the process, but, you know, I'm just saying what would make this palatable, you know, that it meets the 2, so if they built no more than 80 units somehow on this, which 81 would meet the requirements pretty much, and space out, but then it would just be single family, I mean. Yeah, I think unlike all of our other developments, even my own, it preserves a lot of really nice area.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of work to get here and a lot of conversations tonight. And the last thing I want to do is go back to square one. So I'm respectfully asking if there's specific things that we are needing to change in order to get your approval, that we hear that. Because again, the last thing you all have spent a considerable amount of time both in session, out of session. Staff has spent a lot of time. I want to get straight to the chase here. If there's a no vote that you would have, I would ask that you would give us that why that would be. If you're not going to tell us necessarily if you're yes or no, tell us why that would be to help us understand whether we want to move forward with a vote.
Hey, Eric, is there something that they
Yeah,
specifically could do tonight that would get your vote, like side yards or density or whatever? I
I
don't know.
mean, for me, it's density. The code says 2 units per acre, so 2 units per acre.
So 81.
And I would even be fine with 4 separate, you know, the state lots 4 and then 81, you know, of the cluster development. But and I would ask that the buildings could be spaced out. So I know that the building code is 10 feet, but our code says 25 between properties, so it's like 12 and a half feet.
So are you saying 2 units an acre is all you would approve?
Well, Robin, the last single family that we did, do you know what the density was? Was it 2? Do you have any
It was
idea?
3.23.
The very last one?
3.28.
That was Aurora Farms.
Yeah, that was multi-family, right?
That was
Oh, single family, sorry.
Also with the 12-foot minimum building separation.
So we did but,
And that was with Jennings Parks and the railroads. And
oh, yeah.
it's different. Features to it.
You think it's more unique than this one? 3.2. Because this is very
And that-
close, and this
60 or
is
70 units, right?
79.
And they were how far apart?
12 feet.
At Aurora?
Yes.
they were the same as in this case?
Correct.
I just don't see a big difference between that one and this one, honestly. And isn't this more clustered?
Yes, it is preserving more
See
open
that?
space.
I know.
So what's the difference between this one and that one? Because that's just gonna be a bunch of houses just built, and it's gonna be another, maybe not very attractive. Is there a number in between that would make it?
So I'm hearing that potentially a reduction in density and then having larger building separation is kind of.
Yeah, but she's allowed to give her, since she's obviously the tiebreaker here, you're allowed to specifically, we could table it again, but you're allowed to specifically say 100 units or 110 or 90 or whatever. I mean, it is very similar to Aurora Farms. I can't think of the last time we actually sadly voted for 2 units.
We have not approved a single family and 2 dwelling units in it.
No, I can't think.
Maybe, well, I think, Portia actually, I think was.
Oh, and how many?
There's Portia the one just north of the fire.
Yes, Orange and South.
Yeah, so we hardly ever adhere to the code these days. I mean,
And I mean, to the resident earlier's point, I mentioned this before, but we're doing a major rewrite to our zoning resolution because we are behind in just trends these days. So
it would be more like 3 units. Maybe.
I'm not sure what I mean, it's obviously ultimately up to the zoning commission and you all, but we definitely need to make modifications so we have less divergences requested in the future.
Yeah, so I feel like the zoning commission approves of 3.28 units per acre because they approved of it.
They have, yes.
Repeatedly, so I don't see in the density, did they even have an issue with this density? I mean, it was at the 162.
Well, I'll be frank, I think the zoning commission versus the trustees have a different opinion on what multifamily is.
Yeah,
So
but that was the
they see
issue.
multifamily as a higher density, whereas the trustees potentially think of multifamily as attached units.
Yeah, because how can you have multifamily? It's not possible. We took out of the code.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's why the zoning.
Yeah, but they didn't. So they didn't even object to the density. It didn't seem like they. It was more of a. It should have been.
I don't know what
we
direction.
Give you the density. What did they say?
I don't know what that would have been. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what they. Which so to me this is really no different, and just try to adhere to the zoning code when no other developments have adhered to the zoning code, especially the last few years. I mean, back in the day we would stick to it, and then everything changed at some point. So this to me is very. I don't see a big difference between this and they're really, in fact, they're maybe even around the same amount. And we only have a few places left that they're going to develop, and I don't want them all. I keep harping on North Farms, which I love the house and the people, but it just looks. It's just clear cut. It's just gone, and then every road you drive down, all the trees are gone. Is there? What's the side separation? Did you say
12 feet.
Is 12? What did you want it to be? Oh, it's 6 feet between 6 feet.
And Aurora is not the only development that is at 12 either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Aurora is not the only community that's at 12 either. I mean, that's a standard setback
And they're at 12
in today's
too.
building environment.
But they're not proposing their side yard to be. Which I like the fact that they're being.
What do you mean?
I think with the Aurora Farms was the single story, right, or the patio style home. Community is geared towards empty nesters. There aren't
More ranch style.
outside, right? Because the fence, and I like that.
Yeah, I wonder if what
I mean, we can.
it is very
continue
similar.
it, Yeah.
It is a very similar development to what has been
Yeah,
approved.
I think if we're comparing, I think Lewis Center Ravines is a single family development, and I'm trying.
Is that across from the high school?
Yes, that had topography, floodplain. They preserved a lot of trees in their
Oh, yeah.
rear, and it's more of a cluster development.
Yeah, that is,
That's-
and it's almost the
What's
same.
that?
Um,
Center Ravines. Is this the 2.36?
I
Like right across from the tennis courts?
It is almost directly west of our proposed development. Yes.
That's the 2.36.
And that is,
And that was approved 2017.
that's probably the closest I can think of with this significant space.
and what was the density for that?
2.36. Courtyards of the Ravines.
Yeah.
I
that's
think
what's
there's
being
one.
discussed.
No,
One
I'm
child.
sorry. It's called. I have it called as Lewis Center Ravines.
And it seemed like they maxed out their developable acreage, right? Like they pushed it to the brim, which we are not doing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got rid of that right after that. I got that out of the zoning code immediately. It was gone. Now, and looking at that, if you look at how it's built, you see the,
Yeah, they didn't use it. So what I'm wondering is the area down that their property, their parcel as well.
Michelle, do you know how, I think, do you know how far down this goes? This used to be my aunt's property, actually. It's funny.
The Lewis Center Ravines.
Yeah, do you know
I
how,
have the plan.
do you know how much?
What the acreage is, or
Yeah, or do you know how far it goes down, like into the trees? Like to the Ohio Mulch property, maybe? Oh,
it was 23 acres.
I have the extent on my phone. I can.
oh, do you?
If you're willing.
Yeah,
to
we do.
approach.
Show us real quick because we were looking at it, and that just
So your
doesn't.
map just
So our southern property.
Oh, just all the way.
So
Oh,
that whole area.
so it's basically about there. It's about there. Okay,
So there's a
that-
lot of preserved area in that.
behind it. Yeah, but that's, I think, from what I remember. Yeah, so this is gonna be all something here. I can't remember what, single family maybe
Curler is going to be
in that section.
Yes.
at
The
1.9.
yellow. Yes, that's only 1.9.
what's yet to be built is multifamily's been built thus
Yes,
far.
the purple and then the multi. This is orange band here.
Oh. Wait, so the purple. Wait a minute.
Grand North just completed.
Oh, okay. Oh, and then these SLPRD to the right is 2.4. And those are supposed to be really nice. And then what's the 2 point? Oh, that's already built. Oh, that's
The
this.
2.36
Okay.
is that corner.
And they couldn't build in that ravine. I do remember that one because they had to cluster them. Yeah, and actually, I think there's one child that lives in there. I did a map. Maybe, yeah, exactly one. I mean, child. Like how many? Like two? School age kids. School. Okay. Not very many, yeah. It's very
So
similar.
I think we can all understand that there is comparable communities around, but I think I don't want to beat around the bush, but I think it's time to really either choose to continue it.
Do you want to continue to the next meeting, or do you want to do more research?
Or if the board's ready for a decision.
Yeah, or I don't know.
Yeah.
it depends on what.
Like, what
If-
would you tell him tonight to approve it? What, is there anything you could say? Because they're allowed to modify it and cut out 10 units or.
Just so I understand, Trustee Grumbles, I think and tell me if I'm wrong, please, but your position is because it's changed so significantly since the zoning commission recommendation, you think they should start over? Is that my?
Yeah, my vote was on that prior application that the zoning commission vetted.
Okay.
And the density changes and everything and the layout and things like that. I would prefer that go back through the zoning commission. I do think it's unfortunate there's not a better mechanism in place.
Well, what would
Even
that?
if they did make modifications after this, you see, that's where you stand.
Yeah, but I don't, in my opinion, that would be a total waste of time because it's no different. The use is still the same. They just cut some things out and changed it. I mean, it's not like it changed to a completely different use. I mean, that would be.
I mean, the zoning commission voted no on the application, so.
That was only because of the zoning
Right, but
designation, though.
I guess during that conversation, I have to imagine was there a conversation about what would it take to get more of their vote, or what would it take to change to be more feasible and that kind of thing, or was it just that's the application and you're going to go on? I mean, how much was changed during the zoning commission process?
There were not really significant changes. I mean,
The only change, sorry to cut you off, but the only change was that we originally filed under MFPRD, and then we switched it to SFPRD, and they
you
wanted it
did.
to be MFPRD. The plan did not change in any sort of substantive
Well,
way.
and to me, that's silly because, again, how can you have multifamily detached? Multifamily
And
means
Ryan
more than-
Homes, right
Huh?
behind Kroger, that got approved somehow.
That was before we took that out of the code. We took it out. I personally had it taken out because it's ridiculous. But we took that out because it doesn't make any sense. And so I can see how for the density they would, but to me, they're not going to change their mind on that. I just think it's more of a single family house. And I think that's just, I don't think it would be a waste of time and to have them come through, just have the exact same result. I mean, I don't know. What about if they took like 10 units out or 20 or 50? I mean, what about something halfway between this and the Aurora Farms, like 100? And I mean, it doesn't hurt to throw something.
It seems, if I'm reading between the lines, it's not, you don't have X, Y, and Z necessarily at this time. Right, and that's what we've been doing. So I guess if there's not a known something rather now, I would rather continue this in respect for the people that have already given up their warm weather day in evening to this meeting, set and to come back and at the next trustee meeting and have the opportunity to meet with you like we have prior and have an understanding of what commitment we would need to make or if there's any more substantive changes, because
Yeah,
we've
I'm
done
okay with that. I normally don't like to spend this much time, but I've spent.
It's unusual to have this many.
It is weird. I've spent all day, literally, like you said, warm weather day. I had other plans, but this is to me is very important that we get this right, and I'm willing to give up time.
Will you go to the layout of the neighborhood, please?
Their development plan?
Like, what is the potential to create more buffer on the east side of the property? I mean, what can you do? I mean, that seemed like a big complaint from the residents.
Yeah.
Like if you have, 5, 10 properties there, is there a way to stagger those onto the west side of the southern portion? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Or like to put a mound.
So if I take those 10 properties, or say 14, say I carve 2 out of the top and the bottom 2, and I leave it more of a natural buffer there with the existing tree.
Where are you talking? I'm sorry.
I don't have a laser pointer.
No, but you're talking in the middle of the.
Will you zoom that in?
Along Green Meadows?
Yes,
Oh,
so that
sorry.
I can see the property
Do
numbers.
you mean one is closer to the road and one's farther?
Go to the right, you zoom in further.
So
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. then you had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then at the bottom you had like 110 or whatever it is. 117, 16, and at the very top there were 2 more. Go up to the top.
That's 90, 192.
91, 92. Okay, now go as far to the southwest as the property goes. And there's like this little outbuilding or something down at the bottom
Like
corner.
maintenance shed.
South now. So what my question is, if I take those properties and extend the pond over like it was in the original drawing, so it's where your hand is now, and I route those properties in the same fashion over here, what that does is a couple of things. If you zoom out again, now you've got a natural barrier around the entire neighborhood, right? So you're not
Including on the west side, east side of it.
you're not carving all the trees off of the street, and it's creating more of a so where 70 is, you extend out that concrete walkway, move the pond down to the southwest, and you have 3 there. You have 3 next to the next street over where it says 68, 69, and 4 at the bottom, or 4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand what you're going for there, and I think the constraint at the moment is the wetland that is directly north of the westernmost
Where's the
homes.
original drawing at?
Yeah, so that wetland you can kind of see. I guess we are willing to continue this and study that aspect to figure out what the
Can you go to the original?
Can you preserve like trees on the west?
Well, part of what I want to look at is
Hang on. Look, you did it right here. You've already done it. I'm not asking for anything other than that. You've already extended it over, right? All I'm saying is that if you go to the east here,
Taking off the
so go to the farther to the east. I would even be more open to this if you got to your number by shaving off whatever those far east numbers are. So the bottom 2, that row, and the top 2. So you're leaving the vegetation in place and the trees, and having the streets at the north and south that access and turn around the property. To me, that would have been the way to cut the density.
To cut the density, is that what you're saying?
Which is what you did.
Oh,
You took properties out. You came back to us with a different design that holistically changed it. So if you took this layout and said, well, we're just going to eliminate some of the eastern buffer and add trees, but to get to our number, right? I didn't really care about the 3, 4, whatever. You're allowing privacy and creating buffer between the road, etc., but you're leaving vegetation up, and it's more of the neighborhood will be a little more private feeling in that way too. But you've got your green space in the middle, you got all that up. So what would that get us to? What do you have here originally?
There's 158 lots on this plan.
100 who?
58.
158. Okay.
Shave that whole thing off on the side and have them closer together though. But then.
So you get to 120 by taking that first section out and leave green space and trees.
Yeah, and remember there'd be a few maybe left on the left side too, and there might be more room for larger green space, or maybe in the middle. Yeah, what about like 100 foot? Could you preserve trees if there's like 100 feet? I mean, I don't know how big.
I just want to chime in that we're also talking in kind of general terms. There's also the matter of what's actually there on the property now, because we don't want to save honeysuckle, right? Like if there, what's actually on the property that you would be preserving is the question. That's what I want to study to see. Okay, how far back do you have to go that you actually are
So like if
saving
you go on
trees?
Lewis Center Road on the properties that is east of Evans Farms,
Mhm.
between the road and the development, there's a buffer and there's all these pine trees. There's a mound and all those pine trees on top of it. Could you do something like that on your Green Meadows side?
Yeah, if they can't preserve the
If they
trees,
can't
or if
if the
they're junk
existing
trees.
trees are junk trees and you can't preserve
like
the
a-
existing trees.
How tall is that mound?
Like 4 feet.
So I think I'm understanding the board's direction a little more,
Yeah.
and again, if we want to continue it,
Yeah, but I want to make sure that we tell them what they want so they don't come back and, I mean, it's a waste for everybody, but maybe if you can't, maybe have it be 100 feet, I don't know how wide that is, maybe 100 feet off. And then if you cannot preserve those trees, or if they're, I mean,
That layout seems more spaced out. I mean, I think that's a better utility of the property.
this one?
Yeah, if you get rid of the east side to get to
Yeah.
your density, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So would all three trustees be accepting of a lower open space percentage in that scenario, though? Then
What, I'm sorry, what?
This is a lower open space percentage than the version that we were.
correct,
How far apart
But
of
it's
the
still
house?
more than the required.
correct.
But you're getting the green space back at the east side of the property.
Yeah, understood.
No, it's a buffer for the residents versus green space for the people that live there.
And that's what I want to.
Both.
It might be depending on what is yard space
Be a
versus
pickleball
not.
court.
But I
Yeah.
don't want to go over 117.
Oh, never.
Right.
Like, if you take out that eastern
It's
side, you're
not
only taking out, I think I counted 17.
Oh,
You
17.
took out 41.
Yeah.
So let's keep those 41 out.
This is the exact direction that we're looking for, so we appreciate the extra moments to figure
And then
this out.
keep it as far off, like maybe 100 feet.
So-
I'm trying to visualize 100 feet. But if we protect the residents' views of it, it could be a little enclave. You would still see some of it. It'd be a private little enclave that would be kind of hidden from view, which would be ideal, I think. Maybe 100 feet off, whatever you can do. Maybe preserve the trees, or if not, I would say a minimum. I don't know the rise and the run, but I would say at least maybe a 5-foot mound if possible with some evergreen trees.
And then you need to keep it 35.
Zoom out on that a little bit.
So, sorry.
Sorry.
That's smart, then I like.
So if we keep at the current proposed density, 117 plus 4, 121
You
total.
got a pond to the north, you got a pond in the middle, you got a pond to the west. And
Yeah.
you're achieving density by shaving off the eastern buffer and creating a tree, mound, whatever you want to call it. You got better flow in your neighborhood as opposed to only going back and forth and having one run. You've
Yep.
got two, I would think that would be a win.
You can
If-
still put the dog park in there, I hope.
No.
Yeah, I think the dog park is at this moment the least of my concerns.
Need the dog park is important.
Respectfully,
But yeah, I
but-
think, does that help, like 100?
again, I just want to be very explicit with this. So if we can maintain the current density, increase the setback off of Green Meadows Drive, figuring out whether that's going to be saving trees or a
I
mound,
really
whatever
don't
that
care
looks
how you
like.
do it.
Don't care how we do it. Just find a way to accommodate that, knowing we've got other site constraints like a wetland and things like, and a ravine and things like that we got to work within.
Right here. Already
Yeah, this is actually a bad point because it doesn't account for part of that wetland. But nevertheless, we understand what our target is now, recognizing that we could potentially decrease the open space at some level. It's not going to go below what is minimally required,
I
but
would
we can
vote
figure that
yes
out.
on this right now. If you shave the 4 at the top, the 4 at the bottom, and those 2 rows off.
How many is that off, though?
Well,
How many-
that would be more units than what we were proposing now.
1, 2,
That would be probably dropping 14. That'd probably be dropping 16 total homes. If you just took off the easternmost homes fronting.
36
36.
instead of 40 something.
Well, we want to take 41, but there's no way 41 to keep it at 41.
Wait, so it was 162 before, and how many does that take off?
It's 160.
While I
I'm
like
fine with 36 with the buffer, whatever.
Wait, 158 minus what?
while I love site design and while I love figuring this out, I know the people that we hire to do it are way better than I am, so I'm not going to try to armchair it. I would prefer that we table it. We can have a plan ready to have filed for in a week when we would have to have this for the next trustee meeting, if that's acceptable to staff and the trustees.
Unless you don't want to meet with us, I think it might be cutting it too close for that meeting.
What's the next meeting then?
Well, the next meeting, we do have a hearing scheduled on March
We don't need
15th.
to meet with you anymore. We're
So
done.
I didn't know if you wanted to meet with staff, but, so
Yeah,
March
we don't need
March
staff.
15th would be the meeting that you're proposing.
no,
Oh,
I would be
okay.
proposing April 5th. We have a hearing scheduled on March 15th already.
Couldn't make the rows in the middle longer to the east.
Now we can do a special one any other day.
Wait, March.
March 15th is our
come on,
overlay
let's do it.
application.
So what if, how long? Oh, wait, yeah, what's on April 5th? We have a meeting on April 5th?
Yes.
Oh, we do? Oh, man. 52 is gonna not be fun.
I mean, we can do it on March 15th.
That eliminates my concern with the property in the future
Just
too, right?
the overlay hearing's at 5:30.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Are we
This
putting-
fills it up and it spreads it out, and then you got your buffer, the residents' concerns are addressed. I wanna do it right now.
Robin, do you think they should meet with you afterward?
That's up to the applicant. I mean,
Yeah.
we will, as long as we, as an office, have adequate time to
Is it
review it,
legal?
we don't need to meet with them unless they
Let me ask you
desire to.
this, is it legal if we draw this out right now and have like a modification, or like an approval, you know,
Well, it could be legal if you specified
the density
the density and all that.
and the buffers?
Yeah, right, but then,
I want to see a plan.
I think we should see a plan,
Okay,
just,
cool.
just.
And
I think could-
we need to actually draw it to make sure that it works.
Yeah,
Our engineers would kill us if we did this. So we can do March 15th if it's acceptable.
there is a hearing that day,
Oh,
so
wait, what time's that here?
that's at 5:30.
Which one is that?
That's the overlay
That's
application.
not gonna take.
That's the overlay
I don't know.
application?
It's a information
It's
hearing.
right, but it's the first for these two for an
I
overlay.
understand.
Yeah.
But we can't, like, well, you can talk, but legally it won't. Yeah, if their application meets the letter of the law, we're going, so.
What about, or,
I don't think there's anything in there we could, yeah. I
I
don't know.
could do, oh wait, we're in March, right?
Can we do March 15th, like, earlier,
Oh, yeah.
We have a
do
trustee
that.
after at 4 o'clock or something?
I mean, hopefully this is a quicker meeting than the last one, or this one, so we could do it at 5 o'clock.
That's fine, let's do
At
it.
what time?
And then the overlay's at 5:30.
And if this one goes late, you'll make us wait.
Correct.
Wait, what time's the regular meeting? Why don't you just set it for like, is that a long meeting? Do you know yet?
I have no idea.
4:30.
That's, we have. I
Yeah,
don't
do you
know.
want to set for 4:30, and then if we're not done with the trustee
Yeah.
meeting, then we'll just extend it
It'll
by
roll to
15
5,
minutes.
it'll be fine.
Want to do 4:30?
Yeah.
How about 4:30?
Okay.
Does that work for you guys?
That works for us.
And that way the residents have time, they've heard what we said, they can chime in and get a hold of us if they don't like it or if they have questions.
And you
But-
guys are able to meet with the developer also. You know, they can meet with anybody that you want to. I don't think I need to meet with them again. I think we've given.
I do my meetings in public.
I normally do it. That's why spend this much. This is how the meeting
It's
would
fine.
last. It was 2 hours of input.
We appreciate the feedback. I would request a continuance to the March 15th
What I heard
hearing.
today from the residents, I'm fine supporting them. I don't agree. I do have concern over what's transpired, and principally it just troubling, you know, with the way it is. It's a law, and it's not your fault, you didn't write it, but what we have to work with. So to be in an ideal world, you know, you go back and let the zoning commission carve it up. Unfortunately, we can't. We've had applicants that have had to start over several times, and similar situation. Theirs was fundamentally changed more so than this, and I think that's the difference, where we went from what was it, apartments to condos and things like that, so it bounced around. So same applicant, same general idea. They were just, you know, using a different utensil to spread the peanut butter. So we'll get back to it.
And you said you're going to do the conservation easement, right?
It depends on what's left, to be quite honest with you.
But the estate lots,
The ravine should be okay.
yeah, the whole area to the north.
Yeah.
The whole
Well,
area from the ravine north should be in a conservation easement. That would be, that just the trees part.
It depends on how we define the conservation easement, and but we'll work through
Well,
that.
I
and
would
propose
only
something.
be possibly in favor of it if the same, anything, all these trees that are already shown as preserved would need to be, continue to be preserved, all of them, like this whole swath here and along the road.
Understood.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be, and that would, is what we want to put in some kind of easement, because that's the whole purpose, is preserving that.
Notwithstanding the need to access those lots, we'd have to cut through a portion of those trees.
Understood.
Yeah. To get through.
And the road at Green Meadows too. You're
You
gonna
mean
have to
for the
cut
drive-
into the neighborhood.
For the driveway.
Would it be acceptable if there was? I'm going to get a specific question. Would it be acceptable if there was detention
A
or
what?
retention in that front setback?
If there's what?
Like if there's a pond in that front setback off of Green Meadows.
I know that would be another divergence request.
They
depending
do
on
it. Okay,
setback.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
You got it. All right, we have what we need to move forward.
Why would it be a setback for a pond?
I don't know that, I can't remember. In the general standards, there's a setback for ponds from roads. I don't know, depending on where it would be located.
Take a look at it. That might actually be real pretty. A pond with some trees in front of it.
No, but we want to hide the development.
That's what I'm saying, or
No.
a pond with all the stuff in the front, or they don't want the stuff in the front. That's what I'm getting.
Oh,
No, we do, but I'm just saying if we're going to take away
You can
property
tell
to
you
the
can tell me
west.
it's okay.
where the pond is today, that water has to go somewhere. So the question
That
is,
might be a possibility. That
But we
would
just,
be-
I think we want to screen the village residents from the development
we understand that.
on the eastern property.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
understand
and then
that.
if you do the pine trees on the buffer, make sure they're like staggered pine trees, because if you just have one, there's a good standard. If they're just one, like every 10 foot on center, it's just a bunch of pine trees. But
She
if
knows
you
her
s-
evergreens too.
I
Yeah.
do. If you, my neighbor didn't put any up, but a new neighbor, but you could put, staggered.
Mhm.
So
And it's a good screening.
yeah, and that way you don't. It takes a little bit of time, and maybe a few deciduous bushes, but then it helps screen the whole thing. And so, So
Okay.
is that good? You want to make a motion?
And we'll also be respectful of the
Yes votes over
Wenzel's
here.
property to the
Yes
west.
Are you voting yes or do you have a question?
Motion is here to move 32 of the houses to the west.
And directly into your backyard, yes, sir.
But what
To the west.
What they removed to make their changes here was only like 12.
No, they removed 41 homes. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
but on the west side, they took some off of Broad and on the west side, they only took like
What?
Yes.
32 or 12.
Because they had them more clustered before, and then what they did is they spaced them out a little bit more, so it will be a little bit more dense on the interior, but more space on the outside, if that makes sense. So he just kind of showed the last plan, Ben, and then just cutting off the whole right side, and they could have done that and just provided a big buffer. Does that make sense?
We understand your concern of development pushing closer to your property. With everything that we're talking about, we'll keep that in mind as well, because we want to be respectful of you too.
Oh, they're on the right.
Yeah, same thing.
If you look
Yeah,
at the
same
picture
thing.
here, I don't think it's going to impede. I think what we're trying to accomplish is a balanced buffer around the entirety of the property, right? So that one side's not favorable and the other's on.
I don't know, I feel like we're just moving the density around. And next door, I feel like we got tricked into, we kept doing things kind of like this, and then all of a sudden, we ended up with this blob of, density. And it didn't turn out quite like what the blob was to begin with.
Which development? The condos?
It's stuffed in. And so we're nervous because I am certainly here the same thing happen. And then all of a sudden, we're going to have all this density.
We'll commit to meet with you before the hearing, and so don't run out of here. We'll get your contact information.
And they'll have to build it. They'll have to build it as to the plan. They won't be able to change things around once they present the plan. So if that one development did the plan and they deviated, they should not have been able to. Okay.
Okay.
Ready.
So we're tabling till time, place certain. Okay.
Yeah, so we will continue to time, place, certain.
So I make a motion to approve resolution 23-65 to continue the hearing to Wednesday, March 15th at 4:30.
Second.
Trustee Faust,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Knapp.
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to approve resolution 23-66, meeting adjourned.
Second.
Trustee Faust,
Yes.
Trustee Knapp,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.